All right, good afternoon. This Committee of Finance, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is reconvened. We'll pick up on resolution number 842-2025. Once again, this is the appointment of Luther Roddy. This is by Councilmember Griffin, an emergency resolution approving the appointment of Luther Roddy to the Community Police Commission. Okay? And we have with us our Chief Ethics Officer, Delonte Thomas. And Mr. Thomas, there was a question about process and how was Mr. Roddy selected?
Through the chair, again, Delonte Spencer Thomas, Chief Ethics Officer for the City of Cleveland. Thank you for having me. Happy to answer any questions before the body. With respect to the mayor's nomination of Luther Roddy to the Community Police Commission. So back, I guess dating back to March, beginning with the insistence of council to have a Black Shield Police Association representative serve on the commission, we began conversations with the Black Shield leadership and ultimately sought candidates to be put forward. There were several candidates that were put forward one by one from Black Shield. At each of those instances, through vetting, background checks, those types of things, we were not comfortable recommending the first few candidates that were recommended. And then ultimately, Mr. Roddy submitted his application to serve on the Community Police Commission. And then that, vetting process or background screening process began in late May. And then as we began to review that information in the first couple weeks of June, we sought to schedule an interview with Mr. Roddy, and that would be with the same selection panel and committee as in which we vetted all of the CPC nominees. And so that committee included myself. It included Assistant Director of Public Safety, Christopher Violin. It included Dr. Lee Anderson from the Executive Director of our Police Accountability Team. It included Dr. John Adams as the co-chair of the Community Police Commission, and it also included Latanya Goldsby as a community representative, and also president of Citizens for a Safer Cleveland, as well as Black Lives Matter Cleveland. So we conducted an interview in the same fashion as we did for all other candidates. It was a 30-minute virtual interview done via Teams. So that was initially, it ended up getting pushed back a little bit. Mr. Roddy was out on leave for a little bit of time, but that interview was conducted on June 30th. And then promptly we met and we made our recommendation to the mayor. We ultimately had a meeting with Mayor Bibb to discuss the nomination and put forward that nomination before this body July 2nd.
Okay.
And sorry, through the chair, just to the extent that there were questions around the social media background check, just wanted to be clear that report had not been generated because the candidate does not have social media, but we did produce, I just produced earlier today, just documentation showing that. To the extent that that's helpful, but that's why that wasn't included before, is because there is no social media for the candidate.
Thank you. All right. Are there any follow-up questions for Mr. Delonte Thomas? Councilwoman House Jones.
Through the chair to Mr. Spencer, thank you for that information. What would be helpful moving forward, again, as we are getting information? I ask these questions because when I ask questions, no one can answer the questions. So if there is a process, whatever the process is, it would be helpful if you actually communicate that, right? And maybe it was communicated to someone, but I'm saying for me as a member of this body that is entrusted to make an informed decision, what you just shared in the outline, not at all has been communicated with until this just moment right now.
Okay. Through the chair, understood, and we'd be happy to make sure that we provide that communication in full. Initially, when the nomination came over, what we were asked for was the application and resume. So that's what was initially forwarded with the nomination, and then ultimately a council staff person reached out and asked for additional information, and then we provided that as we've had it.
To the chair, I hear what you're saying. You know, I hear what you're saying. I just would like for people to keep in mind, I can only speak for myself, and for me to make an informed decision, I would like to have the full context, and then be able, like I said, to be able to feel secure one way or the other, and to be able to clearly articulate it, why I chose to say yes or no on something. And so that context is helpful.
Sure.
So I appreciate that.
No, through the chair, no problem. And if there's anything else that will help, please don't hesitate to let me know, and I'm happy to provide that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more questions for Mr. Thomas or Mr. Roddy while they're here? Councilman Michael Pelesi.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman and my honorable colleagues, and first of all, to Mr. Roddy, appreciate the fact that you have volunteered for this very important position, but I just want to ask you this. What is your observation of the CPC?
To assist the citizens of Cleveland, to make sure the department is doing the things they need to do to be efficient, fair, impartial with the citizens of Cleveland.
So that's your role coming on, but the CPC, the Community Police Commission, what's your thoughts on them?
It may change later, but as of now, it's playing a very important role in policy, procedures, things that are done with the police department throughout Cleveland.
Okay. The only thing I can ask, and I've said this to all of them, we need reasonable people can come up with reasonable solutions. You can disagree and still be agreeable. And the observation of the community of the CPC is that it's a disaster, that it's not working. It's dysfunctional. So I'm hoping by you coming on with some of the new appointees that have come on as well, that there can be some level of trust restored with the community, professional conduct, transparency, and that this group, which is now a charter section, can do what was intended to do, and that is to work with the Division of Police, not to dictate to them, but work with the Division of Police to make our department the best it can be in the country. So I hope you can add to that positive environment going forward, and I wish you well, and I hope for the best. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Brian Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and Mr. Roddy?
Roddy.
Again, I think I told you earlier, I've never met you, I don't know you. Thanks for taking on that role of responsibility. However, as a current police officer, is there, and I don't know this answer, maybe somebody else, Delonte, maybe you can answer it. If you have to discipline another police officer through the CPC, is there a conflict there, you being a police officer? Do you have a rank? Are you a sergeant or anything? You're
No.
just a patrolman. So is there a possible conflict if you're part of a discipline process for a police officer not having a rank? Or I don't know that answer, but I'm asking, one, if you would feel comfortable with that, but two, is there a conflict with the contracts or anything like that that puts him in a precarious situation if he has to discipline somebody of his own rank?
Through the chair, I'll speak to kind of logistically, and then Mr. Roddy can speak to his kind of personal thoughts or feelings to that. So our view is no, there would not be a conflict. So in Mr. Roddy's role with the Division of Police, he does not oversee discipline. He's not involved in the disciplinary process. To the extent that the Black Shield Police Association may be involved, we've already had those conversations to ensure that he and his role would not be involved in any of those types of matters while he serves on the commission, because there could be a potential conflict if if he were involved in discipline on CDP side and then also involved on the CPC side. And so we've ensured that can be handled and in real time and to ensure that there won't be a conflict.
Okay. And Mr. Roddy, are you comfortable in that role?
I am comfortable. Countless times, new officers, younger officers, I explained to them different policies, how they should handle themselves on the job. And the thing is, if you step out of the box, it's your own fault.
Right, and Mr. Chairman, to the director and everybody else, I get that, right, and I understand that, but even if eventually the CPC does discipline somebody, and we know it's probably maybe eventually going to happen, and we know there's going to be an appeal of that and all that other stuff, I just would hate to see you get jackpotted up and that be part of an appeal because he doesn't have rank or whatever. I just want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a precarious situation to eventually have something overturned or it fail or somehow just because, and not you specifically, but just because we have somebody without rank disciplining other individuals. Like a sergeant can discipline a patrolman, correct? Or do something, right? Director,
The chair, Councilman Casey, the only person in the Division of Police that can actually administer discipline or impose discipline is the chief of police. The sergeants, lieutenants, captains, and commanders can make recommendations for discipline, but the only person in the division is imposing discipline would be the chief of police.
but then let me ask you this, Mr. Chairman, to the director. Can a patrolman recommend discipline of another patrolman or of a sergeant or of a lieutenant or?
To the chair, that they cannot,
Right,
not in our policies and so forth.
Right, that can't happen. So that's the situation that I'm hoping to avoid, again, but if everybody feels comfortable with it, then that's all good. I just don't want to see anybody get jackpotted up later on down the line if the CPC has to discipline somebody and we have somebody with the rank of patrolman doing that, and then you get into the whole ethical thing and the contracts and all that other stuff.
Yeah, through the chair, I think one of the things that's uniquely beneficial is Mr. Roddy's role within CDP being exclusively to serve as a representative of the Black Shield Police Association, right? And arguably, service on the Community Police Commission is an extension of service to the Black Shield Police Association. So in recommending discipline, one, it's important to note that there will not be a time where Mr. Roddy in any particular point would solely decide on discipline, right? It's ultimately a board decision with respect to the commission. But then also, it's important to note that he'd be doing that in his capacity as a commissioner, which our charter, which was voted on, explicitly allows.
Right.
So we'd avoid any potential legal or
And Mr.
technical
Chairman,
conflicts.
to Delonte, you're right, but he'd be a member who's a voting member, right? So that means I'm not going to argue this. I just want to make sure that we're covering all our bases and not jackpotting him up if he has to vote on discipline or anything of that matter. So please just be conscious of that in the back of your head.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Are there any other, Councilman Charles Life?
So sorry, not to belabor the point, but I just want to make sure I understand it. My assumption is if a black officer is facing discipline, the Black Shield's role is something analogous to a defense attorney, correct? So like they are representing their member. They're not actively doling out the discipline. They are there to represent their member. Is that correct?
To the chair, no. Just plain no. The Black Shield Police Association is there to monitor the disciplinary process to make sure that the member receives, if the member is receiving discipline, that is fair, consistent with prior disciplines and so forth. All members, patrol officer-wise anyway, for Division of Police, are represented by the CPPA. Sergeants and above are represented by the FOP in disciplinary process. and their representative could be attorneys and so forth, but it's not the Shield Association.
Okay, and I'm asking because I'm not. That's how it should be. I'm not criticizing anything, but it's CPPA or FOP would be the representation, and Black Shield has something akin to like an advisory. They're like Switzerland at the UN. They're there to view, but they're not actively. Is that how you would characterize it?
That's a fair
Okay, because I want,
characterization.
and to the chair, the reason I'm asking is I want to understand if it were something more than that, a situation where, to lack a better description, a defense attorney, you're a defense attorney one day and then the next day you're on the prosecution. So I guess in the event that an officer is being disciplined, where, if at all, is there a recusal? Is there a recusal in the disciplinary process as a member of Black Shield, or is there a recusal within the voting process of CPC?
Through the chair, I'm happy to touch on that, and it's kind of what I was alluding to a little bit earlier.
And that's why I noted that I'm belaboring the point.
Yeah, so in that would be a situation where Mr. Roddy specifically could not or should not be involved in viewing or otherwise being a part of any action that could come before him as a commissioner. So those were conversations that we also had in the vetting and application process to ensure, and also had this conversation with the president of Black Shield as well, to ensure that it is not Mr. Roddy who is assigned, that there is some other member who's involved with those types of things, to the extent that it involves discipline, policy, training, things that will come before or could come before the Community Police Commission.
Okay, so to put it another way, what I'm really trying to get at is what's the primary role? Is the primary role to be the vice president of Black Shield, and everything CPC is secondary to that? So you would essentially recuse yourself in the CPC process, or is it the opposite, where your primary role is you're a member of the Community Police Commission and you would have to recuse yourself in all Black Shield roles that could arise to being before the Cleveland Police Commission? Where's the recusal?
Yeah, through the chair, it would be issue specific. So for example, there may be already matters that exist, right, that Mr. Roddy has seen or been privy to that could come before the commission, and in those instances, the recommendation might be to recuse as a commissioner in that particular stance. But I think going forward, it'll be, the idea would be to just not be involved in that, right? I mean, my understanding, and Mr. Roddy can feel free to add on to this, is that the Black Shield Police Association has a number of different, kind of duties and responsibilities or work that it's doing. Essentially, there's enough work to go around to where Mr. Roddy in particular does not need to be involved in those matters that could come before the commission, and specifically talking about discipline.
Okay, thank you. And my last question to Mr. Spencer, you're essentially the referee of that determination of when and when not to be involved?
Through the chair.
That's your role?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay. Thank you, and to Mr. Roddy, none of this is, don't read into any of that other than me trying to educate myself. So thank you.
All right. Any other questions regarding Resolution 842-2025 regarding this appointment? All right, seeing no more, Mr. Roddy, this will be heard by the entire council tonight for consideration. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Thomas. All right, we got two more safety pieces that we'll get to. First one is ordinance number 706-2025 by council members Polinsik and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance to amend section 171.57 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, as amended by ordinance number 450-2019, passed April 15th, 2019, relating to military service leave of absence and benefits during service. Director?
Thank you, Council President. With me at the table to my left is Deputy Chief Shalat, and also to his left is Detective William Adams, who will answer questions related to this particular amendment. And it is, and I'll go through the legislative summary, ordinance number 706-2025 amends CO section 171.57, military service leave of absence. Benefits during service updates. the definition of public safety employee to include CDP members or the Cleveland Division of Police members, and updates the definition of month for public safety employees to include 22 10-hour days or 22 10-hour days or 220 hours, 22 12-hour days or 264 hours. This is necessary to clarify the definition and to ensure that the ordinance is equitably applied for military service leave of absence across public safety divisions. The current version of the Cleveland Codified Ordinance section 171.757 defines a month of military service leave as 22 8-hour workdays or 76 hours for public safety employees as 17 24-hour workdays. The Division of Police, or CDP, currently is not included in the definition of public safety employees, thereby making them only eligible for reimbursement for 22 8-hour workdays for 176 total hours. This definition does not reflect the current operational schedules of CDP members who previously worked 8-hour shifts and who now work 10 or 12-hour shifts, resulting in uncompensated military leave time. Ordinance number 706-2025 ensures that CDP members are provided with the military leave benefits commensurate with the updated shift schedule. And again, we're here for any questions or points of clarification.
All right, Councilman Mike Polensek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues. The director and his team discussed this with me in detail, and I supported the legislation to be relieved today. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, how many hours, without overtime, how many hours a week or a month do police and fire and EMS work?
Well, it's 2,080 per year, but you're talking about per month?
2,080.
Yep.
I just want to make sure that, because we're going from 176 hours to 264 hours in a month, right? I mean, I'm
going to defer to Bill. I'm gonna,
you know what I'm saying? I mean,
we have Detective Adams, who really is well versed in all of this, and then, so Detective Adams is going to break it down and answer any questions.
Okay.
But Bill, can you please elaborate?
Through the chair to the council member, basically this is 22 days per year, not a month.
Okay.
So per the prior arrangements through the ordinance, it was 22 days per year for an 8-hour day. Once we, in January of 2024, we switched to 12-hour shifts. It took a year for us to do a look to see whether there was actually going to be issues or not. Beginning January this year, we did our research, and we found that members that were on 8 or 10 or 12-hour shifts were losing anywhere between 40 to 60 hours of paid leave.
Okay, so this is just bringing the people who are out on paid leave for the military up because we went to 10-hour shifts, correct? This is just making them whole with the 10-hour shifts. We're not giving them, they're not making anything additional.
That's correct. They're getting their 22 days
Okay, but the 22 days are now 10-hour shifts as opposed to 8-hour shifts.
and or 12
And
hours.
12
Or
shifts.
12-hour shifts. Okay, and that's the increase from 176 hours to 264 or 408 hours.
Yes, you're just
depending.
multiplying the days off by the amount of hours. So if they're
Okay,
10
so,
hours, it'd be 220.
so this needed to change because
We went from
CPD went from 8-hour shifts
to
to
10 and 12-hour
10
shifts.
to 10. And then one other question, Mr. Chair, to Detective Adams. How many active law enforcement people do we have in the military who are serving in the military?
Through the chair to the council member, we have approximately 52 members.
52? Good. All right, thank you, and thank them for their service as well. Double duty. It's appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Charles Life.
Thank you. The Council President, the legislation in Section 2 says that it's applied retroactively to January 1, 2025. Does that need to be 2024? Are there individuals affected by the change in shifts that are that don't currently have the time they would have otherwise accrued?
Director.
Through the chair to Councilman, no. effective this year, not.
It was this year.
It's not effective back to or retroactive to 2024. It is not.
When did the 10-hour shifts
Oh,
begin?
no, we do not.
This
No,
year.
it's not necessary. I'm sorry. It is not necessary to make it.
It just started this
retroactive.
year? It's only
Yeah.
this year still? Oh, man. Okay, I just wanted to make sure everyone's
Yes.
getting their hours. All right, thank you.
All right. Any other questions regarding ordinance number
Yeah.
706? Councilwoman House Jones.
Thank you. So I'm so excited we're having this conversation about paid military leave. This continues to add to the conversation as hope prayerfully in 2026 as we look to have a inclusive paid family and medical leave in the city of Cleveland for all of our workers in the city of Cleveland. So I'm really excited and supportive of this and looking for the continued support as we look in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding ordinance number 706-2025? Seeing no other. Oh, thank you all for their service. I know that Councilman Casey, but everybody on council wants to thank these guys for their service, for both services, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right.
Bill. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, the one last thing is ordinance number 713-2025 as amended by council members Polinsik and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Safety to apply for and accept a grant from the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services for the fiscal year 2024 Ohio Drug Law Enforcement Fund grant known for the operation of cartel Gang, Narcotics, and Laundering Task Force, formerly known as the Northern Ohio Law Enforcement Task Force, and authorizing the director to enter into agreements with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office and other entities to implement the grant. Director?
Yes, sir. Joining me at table to my left is Commander Kincaid. He'll answer any questions. And to my far right is Dawn Hartsong, handles all of our grants. This legislation, which is ordinance numbers 713-2025, would authorize the Director of Public Safety to apply for and accept a grant in the amount of $250,055.57 from the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services for the fiscal year 24 Ohio Drug Law Enforcement Fund grant. This legislation would provide funding for the operation of the Cartel Gang Narcotics and Laundering Task Force, or Signal, which was formerly known as the Northern Ohio Law Enforcement Task Force. This grant requires a cash match of $83,351.86. The purpose of the grant, the goal of the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services Justice Assistant Grant is to provide funding to law enforcement agencies for operating the multi-agency task forces. The City of Cleveland will be reimbursed for costs associated with operating Signal. Signal is a multi-agency drug task force that brings together local, state, and agents and investigators to ensure the most sophisticated investigations and prosecution resources are directed against organized drug trafficking groups. And we have multiple agencies there, including Cleveland and others. This grant will require agreements with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office, City of North Royalton, City of Brooklyn, Ottawa County Drug Task Force, the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority Police Department to implement the grant. The grant term and amounts. The grant award total, as I read before, includes a local match amount of $83,351.86 and is for the grant period from July 1st of this year through June 30th of next year. The funding source for the matching funds is Fund 01, Subfund 001, Department 6002, RQS RLA 2025-37. And again, we're here for any questions.
All right, thank you, Councilman Polinsik.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues. The director and his team discussed this legislation with me, and I agreed to relieve it of committee. I support it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding ordinance number 713-2025 as amended? Let me make sure that I read the amendment into the record. There is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. Number 1, in section 2, at the end, strike RL and insert RLA. This was signed 6/11/25 by Sierra Lipscomb, Assistant Director of Law. Okay? Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 713-2025 as amended stands approved.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Community development. It's community development, Ordinance number 664-2025 as amended by council members Hairston and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance approving the Director of Community Development to enter into one or more agreements with United Way of Greater Cleveland as the lead partner organization to implement a program to provide access to legal services for covered individuals in eviction proceedings under Section 375-12 of Codified Ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, legal representation in housing court. Director. Let me read the amendment. I apologize. The amendment states there is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in the title, lines 4 and 5, and in section 1, line 2, strike United Way of Greater Cleveland and insert the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland in both places. Number 2, in section 3, line 2, strike 500,000 and insert 750,000. And dated 7/8/2025. This is by Vishnu Ganglani, Assistant Director of Law. Director.
Thank you. This piece was heard yesterday, and very simply, this is for our legal aid program within the city that helps provide access to legal services for covered individuals in eviction proceedings. I know you all are very familiar with this program. I do want to note that we did send over, staff sent over this morning the annual report for legal aid, which was asked for yesterday during the hearing. And so if it has not made it to your mailboxes yet, you should have that. So what this legislation is doing is it is taking United Way of Greater Cleveland out of this process, and we will contract directly with the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland. We are happy to do so. And the other difference is for the cost of the agreement shall not exceed $750,000, and that is to match what was the same dollar amount from last year. And we are seeking your approval. Happy to take any questions on this program, but I know that the council is intimately familiar with these programs.
Very familiar with it, supportive of this program. It fills a huge void. Question for you. Not to exceed 750. Do we know how much they spent last year, and what do they do if they potentially have carryover dollars?
That I do not have with me from last year, but I do believe a good amount of it they spend down, but I can get that quickly.
Okay, it'd be good to know if they spent 100% of that 750, or what percentage, if you can get that back to us.
Yep.
And just what is going to be the process if they don't spend 750? I take it we're only reimbursing them for the expenses that they accrue.
Yeah.
Organizations like this are savvy enough to try to make sure that they spend it all the way to that 750, but then there are some times when they may only spend 600 of it.
Yeah.
And if that's only 600 and we allocated 750, then we might need to see where that 150 is at and where it might need to be reallocated.
Yes, absolutely. We can pull that. What typically happens is there's usually a no cost extension that happens, and then we allow, depending on how much additional dollars are left over, we typically allow the organizations to have more time to spend down those dollars, and we can do that contractually. But happy to give you more details on that.
No problem. And it's just want to make sure that, we're putting 750 aside, then we want to make sure that it's all being spent and not a lot being left on the table. And of course, I know that we got the annual report. Are there any other questions regarding ordinance number 664-2025? Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 664-2025 as amended stands approved. The next one is ordinance number 716-2025 by council members Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Community Development to enter into one or more contracts with the Ohio State University for the purpose of implementing the soil lead testing and mitigation components for the 2025 Summer Sprouts Community Gardening Program, Department of Community Development, for a period of 1 year. Director.
Yes, thank you. Chairman, this was also heard yesterday in DPNS. I will try to keep it as non-technical as possible. The short of it is the EPA has recently changed standards for lead levels in soil from 400 to 200. And so what that means is we are doing an increased round of testing and mitigation to make sure that we are compliant with the EPA, given that we are using federal dollars for this program. In order to meet that compliance, there was additional dollars that were needed and that were requested by the Ohio State University extension to fulfill this requirement. And the amount of that is $67,954. Given that this was not contemplated within last year's CDBG budget, we have asked and were approved for general fund dollars to cover this this kind of emergency in a difference in regulation, so that we can continue the operations for this year for our Summer Sprouts program.
Are we too late in the season, Director?
We have been working with them. These are not the only dollars that they're receiving, Chairman.
Okay.
There's nearly $130,000 from CDBG that they have already been working with. This is to cover that additional, and they've already expended a lot of these dollars. This is really so that they can get those dollars reimbursed.
Okay. Are there any questions regarding ordinance number 716-2025? Councilman Kerry McCoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chair Hairston asked me to speak on his behalf until he returns. This was vetted by the DPS committee and unanimously supported.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 716-2025 stands approved. We're going to hear two pieces that Community Development has for intro and passage this evening. One is ordinance number 854-2025 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to make additional appropriations of $1,200,000 to the general fund and authorizing the Director of Community Development to enter into one or more contracts with various community development corporations to provide funding for neighborhood services using general fund dollars. Director, and welcome to the table, Finance Director. Please go over this with me.
Thank you. So these are our emergency dollars for our CDCs. As I know you all are well aware, we were a bit late in finding out what dollars may or may not come from HUD through CDBG.
And Director, for a clarification, it was not due to anything that the city has done. It was the
Certainly.
federal government that didn't notify us of what the funding was until approximately a week or two ago, right?
It was late May.
Okay, thank you.
It's late May.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Yes. So what we know is that once we get the dollars, then we start a fairly long process. There's a public comment period that requires 30 to 45 days to publish information, and there's just quite a lengthy process. We typically start that process early, not knowing what dollars we would have. We did not start that process until we got that notification from HUD. So we are delayed this year. That means that we won't finish our process probably until August here locally, and then we will give it to HUD. HUD will then have 45 days to respond, yay or nay, change this or that. And then we go through a process of a grant agreement. All that is to say, there's a lot of process between now and actually getting the dollars to draw down. Meanwhile, we know that our CDCs are organizations that are nonprofit orgs that are struggling on a daily basis. I know that that conversation is one that we have had quite a few times at this table. So what we are proposing as an administration is that we take 2 tracks this year to fund the CDCs. We have a fast track and a bit of a slower track given all of the requirements for with the federal government. So what we are here today to hear about, this $1.2 million, we are asking for general fund dollars for that fast track. So that fast track covers, it allows us to quickly be able to contract with the CDCs and get money out the door. So that's why I'm calling it the fast track. One, because it's general fund dollars that we can draw down fairly immediately. So with these dollars, what we are asking the CDCs to do is it is for general support for the CDCs, for them to really keep their lights on as we continue to go through the slower track of CDBG and drawing those dollars down. Okay, so typically every year there are sources of funds that are both from CDBG. Half is from, or a portion of it is the departmental allotment, and the larger portion of that comes from these council NDA funds. So those are CDBG dollars that are allotted to council. Council gives many of those dollars, the majority of those dollars, end up going to CDCs. This time we are looking, instead of doing one contract with those 2 CDBG parts, we're looking to do one quick contract that's CDC funding from general fund to support general operations, which is not something that we do right now. And then we will follow up with the NDA funds. And there were several emails that were going back and forth earlier this week so that we can start that process in anticipation that we get through our funding process with CDBG. So I know that is a lot of information. What this 1.2 covers is the departmental allocation, not the NDA part of the allocation, but the departmental part of the allocation. And 1.2 is what we gave last year. So we are matching exactly what we gave last year as a department.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions that I want to make sure that I understand. One, where in the general fund is this coming from? Where are we taking it from? And then I have a follow-up question.
Through the chair to the committee, so when we received this ask from CD, we went back and we're constantly looking at how we're doing year to date as compared to the budget. We did find that some of our revenues, the aggregate of our revenues are slightly overperforming. So we are confident that we'll have the 1.2 at the end of the year. So we're taking this $1.2 million from, we actually added the supplemental in here to pull the funds from the general fund because we're highly confident that the path that we're on will have about that amount available at the end of the year because of overperformance of our revenues in certain areas.
Okay. Will that 1.2 be replenished when we finally do have a contract with CD, with the feds? Or is this 1.2 that will not be replenished, which means that then the award that we basically use from the departmental allocation will still be whole? It won't be 1.2 million less.
Yeah, through the chair to the committee, and I'll let Director Hernandez correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is the 1.2 will not be replenished.
Okay, go ahead.
So the 1.2, and you'll see this in the next piece, that 1.2, instead of that being the departmental allocation for CDCs, we have taken that 1.2 and just added that across all of the other items in our that we're proposing in our budget. So it is being reabsorbed to really get the shortfall that we're getting from the federal government.
All right, thank you. Is this enough money? I mean, 1.2 spread across how many, what is it, 26 or so CDCs?
17 to 20.
17 to 20?
So we're looking to do this for, it probably is a good quarter's worth. So it's to get us that bridge until we're able to get the CDBG dollars this fall. So we are working quickly. This is essentially a stopgap measure that gives them, you know, money right now to continue their operations.
All right, and I'm going to say this because I want to make sure that I say this the right way, but most of the CDCs have cut off the spigot. They are not fronting any projects. They're not doing anything because their uncertainty has just been relentless this year, which I don't blame them. Many CDCs are really struggling right now, and they have to change their business model because of the uncertainty coming out of Washington, D.C., and because of other things. So my question to you is, by doing this, are the CDCs going to commit to coming back around to doing some of the vital services and supports that we need as a council? Because right now, they're telling everybody no, and they're telling everybody that they can't do anything because of their constraints.
So I don't want to speak for the entire system as a whole. You all know that each and every CDC is their own independent nonprofit run by their own board. But I will speak in general terms. Because of all of this uncertainty, it is tough to maintain staff. It is tough to just operate on a day-to-day basis. I know how it feels. I feel that as well, leading a department that is funded through these very same CDBG dollars. So I feel for them. This is so that we can ensure that we keep on the lights so that when things like emergencies happen, I'll give you an example. This fire that recently happened, right? This Garden Valley fire, it was BBC that stepped up. If BBC's doors were shut down, and they weren't able to receive donations. They weren't able to, be a physical location where people can drop off bottles and things that were absolutely necessary. I think that we're in a worse situation. And so what we are saying as an administration is these dollars are worth it so that they can continue their critical functions and keep their lights on. I think it is no secret that, organizations that struggle for dollars, nonprofits, are looking at things like furloughs and staffing. We want to make sure that we're giving as much consistency and as much stability as we possibly can. This is a measure to do that.
And Director, I appreciate that. That's great, and I think we need to be supportive of these organizations because they do a yeoman's job in our community. I just want to understand if this is going to be a vote that my members can actually be able to say, now that community event that we work together on that you're going to come through for. Now with these housing inspections that we're doing, you're going to come through on. Or is it going to be, yeah, this helps keep the lights on, but we still can't help you and we still can't do anything. That's what I'm trying to determine.
Understood.
And I know that this is coming up for a vote, but I just want to make sure that you understand our concerns and that message is conveyed clearly to the CDCs, because we have a lot of council members with projects and things in limbo because they've supported CDCs, and the CDCs, because of the uncertainty and trials that they're having, have been pretty much putting everybody on ice right now. And I just want to make sure that they understand that this investment by Cleveland City Council means work with Cleveland City Council.
Yes, and Chairman, if I may also add, that typical CDBG NDA process is one that is going to start happening. So that's where those conversations take place between the council members and their CDCs about, okay, here's how much NDA money we have, here's how much we're going to give to the CDCs. What are the type of activities that we're going to be able to get in exchange for those CDBG dollars? Right. So that conversation, is something that will continue to happen. We just want to make sure that we keep the lights on until we're able to have those conversations.
And I'd encourage all of the council members. I am going to be meeting with all of my CDCs because we need to have some good understanding of how we're moving forward as as a body as with them. So I would encourage most council members to try to at least, even if you don't have a CDC, at least try to meet with CMP or somebody who's in that ecosystem so that you can have an understanding of what all is going on, okay? All right, I have, I believe, Councilman Kerry McCormick and then Councilman Brian Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank the directors that are here today, as well as Chief Epstein. I know he's worked hard on this for forwarding this legislation. Fully supportive. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor to this legislation. Madam Clerk, thank you. A co-sponsor to this legislation, if I can. Thank you. To me, again, coming from the CDC world, these CDCs are barely, if at all, being able to make payroll. I mean, they are on the cliff of non-existence. And, I don't think any of us, anyways, let me speak for myself. So much of the neighborhood work that we do on the Near West Side relies on the CDCs. And so whether it's running recreation leagues, organizing block clubs, doing home repair, doing business assistance, our CDCs do so much of that work. So again, I really appreciate the effort to put this gap in. And, to the council president's point, so much of this is based on the federal government's instability. And I remember going to the director who very much has experience at the federal level. And, and we went to people that had contacts in the federal government, and no one knew. Truly, no one knew. And I know that was frustrating for some folks because they would say, "How does no one know?" Well, no one knew, and that was just what it was. So, I'm thankful that we are getting CDBG this year, and that that's going to come through. But we understand that there is that gap, and I really appreciate the nimble action by the director to work together to figure out how to keep things afloat in that gap. And I just want to emphasize, I don't think people really understand how delicate our CDCs are right now, how fragile they are. Like, I know, I'm not going to say any names, I know some people that are not getting paid right now, that are still doing jobs and are not getting paid because the money ain't there. So these CDCs, and again, I'll speak for myself, that are so important to getting the work done, are on the verge of collapse. And I just can't emphasize that enough on how important it is to ensure that they stay afloat. And again, I want to thank the director, Tours, for figuring out how do we allocate some dollars to bridge the gap and to keep them above water. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Brian Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the directors, if we had normalcy, and we know we don't, but if we had normalcy at the federal level, and this all would have been done in our regular, timely manner, would you be coming to us for the 1.2 million?
I would not.
Okay, so if we were working in normalcy, where would that 1.2 million have come from to give the CDCs that you're asking for today?
Director? Mr. Barrett?
I'm not sure that I understand. Are you asking where would the general fund dollars be used if it were not here?
Mr. Chairman, to the directors, is this $1.2 million that you're asking for? You use this every year to give CDCs their, I forgot what type of fund you call it, but they're operating whatever that dollar amount is. I don't know the name of it. But you give that away every year, correct?
Correct. We do through CDBG, not through general fund.
Right. So that 1.2 would be coming through as CDBG dollars, not
Correct.
general fund dollars, correct?
Correct.
So then when we get the allocation, why aren't you going to reimburse the general fund, the 1.2 out of the CDBG dollars that you're getting? Because basically you're just asking for an upfront loan from the general fund, correct? Is what you're asking for. So when you get your CDBG dollars, why can't you give the $1.2 million back to the general fund? Because if this was regular times, like last year or whatever it was, you wouldn't be coming asking for the general fund, you'd just be taking it out of the CDBG. So I'm assuming that part of your application for dollars that you're asking for CDBG includes this 1.2 million. So why not why aren't you taking the 1.2 million out of the CDBG fund allocation when you get it and giving it back to the general fund?
Through the chair, we did discuss some options to do that. We thought that it was going to be more complicated, and opted against doing that, so that we can support. Now, what I will also say, though, is that we are supporting the CDCs in a different way than we typically. We typically are not supporting the general operating of the CDCs. So through CDBG, we are saying you do, this activity, each dollar is tied to an activity. These dollars are not necessarily tied to direct activities.
And Mr. Chairman, to the director, but these dollars, this 1.2 million, is not part of the discretionary funds that we give, that council members give to CDCs. This is not part of those dollars, correct?
Correct.
So I'm still asking then, why wouldn't you, when you get the CDBG allocation, why can't you give the 1.2 million back to the general fund? If you're asking, essentially, you're asking for a loan, kind of, sort of, or to borrow the money from general fund to cover the program that you want to administer.
So I'm actually not asking for a loan. What I'm asking for is an emergency measure that helps to support the operations, which is not typically funded at all by CDBG, whether in the departmental allocation where these dollars are coming from,
All right.
or the CDC dollars.
Okay, so you're asking for something totally different than CDBG. You're
Correct.
coming to us, okay, okay. So you're coming to us saying, we don't even talk about CDBG dollars for this.
Correct.
Right? You're coming to us saying, we're asking for 1.2 million to help our CDCs get through whatever. That's okay. So that's different
For
than
general operating,
so,
yes.
so that's different than what I thought it was. I thought you were asking as part, like, you're asking for this money until you get CDBG dollars. Okay. And then, Mr. Chairman, to our CFO, right? And the council president touched on it, but you're allocating this on future, what you believe to be future revenue that we may or may not have. So what happens if we get toward the end of the year and your projections fall short and this 1.2 million is not there?
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, I mean, it is based on projections, but if we weren't highly confident, there's been a consistent, throughout the year through May, we have numbers, we're finalizing the June numbers. There's been consistent increase in collections over what we budgeted. In certain areas, we look at that versus some revenues that are underperforming, and there's a pattern throughout the year. And like I said, things are relatively tight. Most of our revenues are on track with what our budget is. But over time, it's been consistent that 1.2 has been available, but not much more than that.
Okay, and then, Mr. Chairman, to the CFO, but if that 1.2, say things stable off, right, or more your projections are hit than this additional dollars that you're seeing coming in, then what happens? I mean, what happens if all of a sudden things become stagnant and that 1.2 isn't there for the last 5-7 months of the year, and then we fall short? Are we shorting the general fund?
So through the chair to the councilman, those funds, I mean, the short answer to your question is that it's all based on projections, and you could go down the line and say if it doesn't materialize. I mean, we could also look and, maybe something happens and we have to close the economy like we did during COVID and take a hit that way. So it is all based on projections. So that's true. I mean, if the 1.2 didn't materialize, we'd have to take a look at, again, do another analysis and figure out how to make up that 1.2. But again, this is how our supplemental ordinances function. We looked at projections of where we think we'll be and when there's a need, and we feel highly confident that those funds will materialize. That's when we commit to a cause like this one.
All right, and then I just have two other questions, Mr. Chairman, to the director. Have the CDCs been notified of a dollar amount of this 1.2 million that they're going to receive?
Through the chair, no, not officially. We're waiting for this, which we hope passes today. We have letters that are drafted, and it will be, like I mentioned earlier, an identical amount to what they received from a departmental last year, and we're ready for those letters to go out.
Okay. And then last question, Mr. Chairman, to the CFO. Do we have the 1.2 million today to give to them?
Through the chair to the councilman, again, it's based on future revenues.
So we do not today.
We have 1.2 in cash. The cash available is not an issue.
Right. So what I'm getting at is the director's going to send out a letter to Jefferson Puritas saying you're getting $10, right? We have that $10 to give them when they get the letter, right? That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not going to be 5, 6, 7, because we know how the city is with getting money out the door, right? So they're going to get this letter, then our CDCs may want to start back up or start doing programming again. They're not going to wait a couple of months to get the money. It's going to come in a timely fashion.
Through the chair to the councilman, we do have the 1.2 million readily available in cash.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, to the director, you're expecting them to get the letter and the money relatively quickly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Richard Starr.
Thank you, Council President, as well as Councilman KZ asked some of the questions. I'm just wanting to make sure I understand. So through the general fund, we have $1.2 million just sitting around to be able to do this through the chair?
Director.
Through the chair to the councilman, we have funds in our bank accounts that we invest, so we have readily available cash. The 1.2 in terms of budget and taking it from the general fund and making sure everything balances is based on future projections of revenue. So you need a source in order to, fund that 1.2 in addition to what we budgeted this year, and that comes from the additional revenue, that we're above what we budgeted for the year.
Thank you. So through the chair, through Council President to the Community Development Director as well as Finance Director, I want to put it on the record that Ward 5 Central Neighborhood is working on a food cooperative initiative, and I need about $250,000 to do the same thing. Is that something we can do as well through the chair?
Through the chair to the councilman, that's a policy decision we'd have to talk about offline. I will say that when looking at our revenues, we had to scrounge to make sure that this 1.2 would be there. Anything more than this, I can't guarantee. This is the amount that we felt comfortable with.
Council President, this is some of the things that really frustrates me. I've been talking from budget hearings, conversations for the last 2.5 years, the very much importance of a grocery store. And every time it's for other projects that make sense, we find money. We find money. I'm talking about an area which is surrounded by residents who live in public housing, subsidized housing, within 1 mile radius of each other. You have over 2,600 units of housing and not one grocery store since Days left in 2019, 2018. And I've been saying, how can we work on getting a grocery store? How can we work on getting a food cooperative for 3.5 years? But all of a sudden, we're able to find $1.2 million to fund the community development corporations, where we usually use community development block grant, where my neighborhood is eligible for the most amount of dollars needed for CDBG. But we're able to find $1.2 million, in which I'm still looking at this ordinance number 854 to get the actual understanding of who's going to get spent, who this money is going to, what organizations. We have a ton of CDCs. It's just showing $1.2 million to CDCs. Do we have a breakdown of the line item of who's getting what and what it would be spent on these tablets or anything through the chair?
Director.
Oh, through the chair, we do not have that on your tablets. It mirrors exactly what last year's departmental allocation is. So I can get that to you very quickly because like I said, it just mirrors what the departmental allocation was. As far as the activities that it covers, rather than, it really is covering general operational support to the CDCs. And so there are not direct activities that are required through this legislation.
And to that point, still would love to see when we were talking about we found $1.2 million to spend when we went through a budget and this was not in the budget. Earlier this year, this was not line item for anything, 1.2 for this. So from the point that I think Councilman Casey was making, well, we're not doing it alone. We're not trying to get this money back once CDBG funds actually get in place. We're looking at projections and utilizing these dollars to be able to fund administration or operations for community development corporations that are not listed right now, but we will possibly try to mirror something from last year that I possibly can't remember offhand. For us to be able to vote on this, to pass this, it seems reckless when I have a community development corporation that owns a plaza that a grocery store has left, and the plaza has been sitting without it got 8 storefronts and only 2 is being occupied, including a non-grocery store that is something that I need. So it's kind of hard for me to say, hey, I want to support this, but we haven't been able to come up with a plan to address another key issue of food deserts in the neighborhoods where CDBG dollars should be heavily invested into. So I'm really having a hard time with this piece because I've been advocating for community development, economic development, finance department. Every time they all at the table, how can we get a grocery store? And no one has said, hey, let's come up with a strategy. So I've been working with the Central Kinsman Cooperative to be able to come up with a plan to get a food co-op. And now I'm looking at it from the standpoint, from the numbers that they're looking for, we possibly would need $250,000 to $400,000 to get that initiative off the ground so we can start to solve that. But that has not been something that's been prioritized, but it's easy for us to find $1.2 million to fund positions. I mean, what are we doing here? What are we doing? I mean, what are we actually doing here? I mean, we set up a system that we're trying to use general fund dollars to help maintain CDCs. I'm talking about the actual work. So even if we fund these positions and there's no dollars for them to actually do work, what are we funding? Just positions to say we got positions through the chair, but using general fund to be able to just fund these positions to do what? That's what I'm talking about as far as executive summary. What are we actually spending this $1.2 million? Because all I'm hearing and seeing from this is nothing but salaries, and that is what's frustrating me when we could use some of this money to solve the issues of food deserts in certain neighborhoods in the city of Cleveland. To the chair.
Through the chair, thank you, Councilman, for your line of questions. We want the CDCs to still be open by the time that CDBG dollars come through to do those activities that you're used to seeing the CDCs do. So that's what the point of these dollars are for general operations. So we're keeping the lights on. It's an emergency. And we are addressing and rising to that emergency. This is a way where we think that we can bridge the gap until those federal dollars are able to come through. Those federal dollars, we did get an allotment, so those are dollars that are coming. We want to make sure that these organizations are still stable enough to be able to receive those dollars when they get here this fall.
Thank you. And to that point, do we have any data to contribute to what is actually is CDC model that was created long ago, still a model that works best for the neighborhoods? And what I mean by that is I'm looking at the CDC activity grant program accomplishments, and all I see is, okay, single family substantial rehabilitation. All right, one CDC in my neighborhood only did 6 of those that year, and that was a total of $256,000. And then they still have $139,000 left over. Then it said housing program intake referral, 0 out of 5. Then you're talking about house maintenance and repair program, 4 out of 7. So overall, just on that activity accomplished report, you have about 11 plus 7. So you're talking about 18 different activities. Out of that, we got about 9. So if we're funding, spending $1.2 million on the bare minimum of things, and then I also got another CDC who has single families, substantials, rehabilitation, it says 0 out of 10 when I got to receive this report. So what I'm saying is this CDC model, is it actually working? Or are we going to continue to say, hey, we're just giving it to do the bare minimum? And now I'm not trying to criticize or make it seem as if I got a bad pace, but what I'm involved in as far as elected official is how to get more things done. And it seems as if we're just spending money, and if we get into CDBG, we might be here all day because I might could write a dissertation on what we're doing with CDBG versus what the actual rules and engagement, rather what we should be doing as far as developing other areas in part of the Cleveland, as opposed to just certain areas in the city that we do. So I don't know if this CDC model is still the best model for us to be actually utilizing. And then as we talk about the CDBG money that's going to come in from the allotment, are we still planning on spending it or distributing it the same way versus that we've been doing it in years past through the chair?
Through the chair, yes. Through the NDA allocations, we will continue to go through that process, and that is how the majority of the CDC budget will come about. In addition to these general fund dollars, it'll go through the NDA process as is typically done throughout the year, based on the negotiations between the CDCs and their council members.
Yes, and through that point, is there another way for us to actually utilize CDBG funding, or only way we can utilize CDBG through funding is only through using a CDC? Is that the only model through the chair?
Through the chair, that is a policy decision, and I know that there has been robust conversation. I anticipate there will continue to be robust conversation about the use of CDBG dollars. This is a system, as you and I came here about the same time, this is a system that has long been adopted. And I'm happy to continue to participate in those conversations. To answer your direct question, CDBG can be spent in hundreds of thousands of ways. This is how the city of Cleveland has historically spent these dollars.
So just for the record, I want to be different this year with these CDBG dollars. As way of spending, like I said, I just gave examples of how CDBG was allocated. And to me, based on the amount of work that actually get done, we can't keep saying we're funding stuff, but we're not seeing that much results. There's no sense that we have CDBG dollars used in neighborhoods, but we haven't figured out how to solve this food desert issues utilizing CDBG dollars. We have not figured out ways to address the fact that we have more vacant lots on certain parts of the city, such as the east side, but we use CDBG to build and develop in other parts of the city, but we can't do it in other areas. That is very much disturbing to me, and I definitely want to see other ways for us to use these dollars, same as how we did for general technical assistance to businesses in other areas, development opportunities, tips, and different PACE programs, all these other things that you've heard over the years, and that we're not seeing the same type of investment or intentional strategies for CDBG dollars to be allocated in neighborhoods such as mine. So I yield after that, Council President, and I look forward to working with the directors, both directors, to see how we can really champion this. And I definitely want to leave with this. If we can make up $1.2 million, I believe we need to be talking about $250,000 to $300,000 for me to get a food cooperative initiative started up in a central neighborhood to address the area. Like I said, over 2,600 units off the top of my head that is in less than a half-mile radius of a plaza that once was home to a great grocery store that's no longer there. So residents are really buying groceries out of a gas station, out of Dollar General, which just left as well. And we can't figure out how to get a food cooperative or some type of grocery store there. That is unbelievable for me to see $1.2 million to go to CDCs once again, and we haven't solved this problem. So I yield, Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to ask if the director can give the list of the allocations to Inez. Inez, can you run a copy for everybody? They have a list of the calculations of how the 1.2 million will be spent, okay? I'm going to go to Councilwoman Spencer, House Jones, Gray, Harsh.
Thank you. You have a busy list, Mr. Chair. This has been a great discussion. Just briefly to respond to Councilman Starr, it's my understanding that individual council members do use their allocation in a variety of ways, and that not everybody gives it only to CDC. So that's already a practice. Just to clarify that point through the chair.
Through the chair, yes, you're correct. And I do want to note that 38% of Cleveland CDBG allocation goes to NDA funds that this council is responsible for distributing. That's divided 17 ways. So 38% of the entire CDBG budget is dictated directly by council members.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I'll keep this very brief. Just wondering about the burn rate, if you will. Well, let me come back to that. The first question through the chair is, will CDCs be eligible for, presuming this passes today, upon passage, would they be eligible both for NDA, which is through the ward-based allocation, and the department allocation on top of that, or is this really replacing the department allocation?
Through the chair, the intent is it'll replace the CDBG departmental award.
Great. So at the time at which we come to the CDBG hearing, that would be presented and discussed about how those dollars would be used instead.
Those dollars are through the chair, those dollars are spread equally throughout each of our line items.
Okay,
So rather
got
than
it.
it going to a certain line item, it is just going to give everything a little bit more. There was, I think, we're less $400,000 from the federal government this
So
year.
it's really
So this will
800,000.
help to fill that gap as well.
Great. So the delta is really only about 800,000. Okay. And then my last question, and I know our DPS chair is not at the table in this exact moment, but the reason I use the term burn rate is this is a bridge. This is a stopgap to keep doors open at these CDCs so they can, as you said, be ready to receive the funds. What is the earliest possible date that the city would actually be able to get the NDA funds to these organizations, knowing how far behind we are currently? Through the chair.
Through the chair, that is a difficult question for me to answer. There's a lot of process that needs to happen between now and then. I can't give money that I don't have, and I don't have it until I have a grant agreement with the federal government. So we are at the point of the process where we are ready to hand over, here's what our plan is. HUD then will have a certain amount of time to say, yay, nay, change this, or otherwise. And then we go through the grant agreement process. So we are anticipating that we're still a couple of months away, but it is hard to tell. We're all aware that the federal government is short-staffed quite significantly. So it is hard for me to tell you when exactly that how long the stopgap is. But my hope is that by October, November, my hope by the latest, that we've gone through all processes to get those dollars out the door, and that we're able to start refunding those reimbursements.
Thank you. So through the chair, typically contracts are in place for CDCs by July 1 of every year. Typically
It's typically later. Through the chair, it's typically a little bit later. It's kind of been later and later every year, but it is for the program year starting
July 1.
Starting July 1. So we're able to recoup funds back that were spent back to July 1.
And then last question, what is the desired date, if you know it? I know this is up to our chair as well, but for the actual CDBG hearings that we normally have in spring, if not winter of the year?
That is something that I'll ask you to take up with the chair, when and what that process will look like this year. We know it's a weird year. There is actually a piece on here that looks to, the next piece is going to be to apply and accept, but not to expend those funds. So part of the process we're looking to solve with a legislative piece that will be heard after this.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman House Jones, Councilwoman Gray, and Councilman Harsh.
Thank you. So I know we heard this yesterday, so I'm going to work to be brief, but I know it was this conversation that discussed 38% of the CDBG dollars, yes, go to our directive from council members. And I guess from that percentage, do you know what percentage of those dollars actually go to CDCs?
Through the chair, I can't speak exactly to that, but it is a large portion of it. So I believe that it's $7 million, and only about $1 million of it goes to other organizations.
So I want to just have this point actually be let out that, I mean, because I know mine exclusively, for the most part, exclusively goes to the our community development corporation. So I just want to note that we are, again, in my experience, these dollars has been utilized to help to support our CDCs. And then with the balance of the other 62%, where does that go?
Through the chair, about 20% of it goes to the staffing cost for community development department, and those other dollars go to what I would say are legacy programs. So those are things like senior transportation, other home repair is another line item. There are some dollars that go for housing development, but not.
Okay.
Not a ton.
Well, I appreciate this. And so I guess this is just, again, a question. And I know people are, as we get into the casino conversation, I feel like since I have the finance director here, through the chair to the director, what opportunities are presented to come up with an equitable policy to investing in organizations with public dollars that are not that are not done from a reimbursement model? Are there opportunities to explore those things?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, I think there's opportunities for any of those type of conversations, and I'd be happy to have those with you. If we could get into some specifics offline, I'd be more than happy to sit down and have those discussions.
Okay, so what does it look like through the, and again, from the chair to the director, exploring conversations to trying actual real protocols to actually transforming our system based in design off of, again, for far too many of our neighborhoods where you're talking about literally hardworking individuals who have lower means, right? Where far too many of our neighborhoods are deemed a low income, working poor. Like, do we even have policies that are designed on a working class communities, those who are just making the bare minimum and don't have the access, right? So, for example, I literally this week, this has been the money week where people have just come to ask me. I've had a Muni League team ask me for, a boxing team ask for travel regrets. Again, because I'm just out of touch with baseball, I had no idea football uniforms at minimum cost like $500 to $700. At minimum. Like they were showing me, I was like, a helmet is $250? I was like, so you see what I'm saying? Like, this is just a basic level. And I'm like, it's either like, do we as a system even understand these things? Like, that's part of the problem. I am convinced the majority of people that are here making these policies have no idea what the real cost of things are. And so we asked the family in Ward 7, the household income is $25,000. How would a family of $25,000 pay for that $700 uniform? And now most of these teams are 30 to 50, participants. Where's the money coming from? We're supposedly, we relying on wishes and hopes from those who are well-to-do, and that trickle down ain't coming to Huff. That trickle down ain't coming to St. Clair Superior. So I mean, like when we created these policies, it's like, what are we doing? Because again, how it relates to this conversation is, in this regard, Famicos Foundation in particularly has been said, hey, you go and fund the football team, and we're gonna give you your money back. And what has happened over the years, Famicos, they never got their money back for sponsoring the football team. So now it's $1 million loss-ish, because they were like, well, you never got a contract for it, so we're not gonna give you the money back. But at the end of the day, they are filling the gap where no one else would do it. We don't have no billionaire sponsors, millionaire sponsors. We got the CDC, literally. And we can't find a way to, because of these are the things that they've been funding, to find a way to, in an equitable way, ensure those dollars are developed for a sports funding program. I don't know what we come up with, but it has to be a better way versus penalizing our community development corporations who really just been a cash cow for community, even though government is better positioned than the CDC to do it, in my opinion. And so I really would like to have this conversation, not have the conversation. Let me scratch that. I don't want to have a conversation. What I want to do is actually come up with a real plan to solve this issue that I and others on this body have recognized it is a problem that has led to just disastrous results, where now we're not going to be serving anybody. So that's my request.
All right, thank you. We'll follow up with that conversation. Councilwoman Gray,
Yes, thank you, Chair.
and then Councilman Christopher Harsh.
Yes, Chair. Yes, I don't want to reiterate everything what some of the councils just said, but I just want to echo Starr when he made a statement saying that about the performance reports, which are terrible. And to that, when you said earlier that there was no deliverables for the 1.2 million, and we're paying people just to sit around and do nothing, but we're paying for the operation part of the CDCs just to keep the lights on. While we keep the lights on, while we keep the lights on, what will they be doing? Because we don't know what they're doing now. I'm just saying on my experience with my CDCs. For me, I funded both CDCs for 2 positions because they didn't have the positions to do the work that I need to be done in Ward 4 for Mount Pleasant and Buckeye. So I funded a housing and an economic position. So I know who's working for me. And then also, one of the positions has not been filled over a year. So due to that, and I know Councilman Seif and I had questioned about getting some money back that we couldn't get back because it was held back. Could you collaborate that on that site for me, please?
Yeah, I think you're referring, Councilwoman Gray, to when we had the contract extensions, and there were unspent dollars that were still tied up in the contract because we were extending the contract instead of those becoming open to be allocated in a new contract.
Right. So due to that, that money is still sitting. So the question is, let me go back into my email. It's just another question. So that was an open-ended question, but I want to ask about what would be the contract dates for the federal dollars, and can we get that money back? Chair to Director.
Through the chair, the federal contract will be from July of this year to, from June of this year to the end of May next year. So we're on a June to the end of May is what our contract cycle is with the federal government.
Okay, so are we going to be able to get that money back, Chair, to the director?
Through the chair, are the dollars that are allocated for this program year,
Yes.
and that's what we're planning to obviously spend. Yes, that will go back to anything that was spent till June of this year.
Okay. And going back to the extension contract of the dollars that we couldn't get back because how, I guess, how that was suggested through your department, are we going to be able to get those dollars back through that extension contract? Because that money is still sitting, and that money is not being used, but that money has been sitting. So what's going on with those fundings?
Through the chair, what we, we try to do things as quickly as we can. And so from a policy perspective, I thought last year it would be quicker, and it was. Though it was not a perfect process, it was a quicker process, and it left that externality, right? It left that thing that you're discussing.
Yes.
It left that out there. So we got a quicker contract, but we had some issues with it. So what it looks like for this year is instead of doing a contract extension, we are doing a fresh new contract that will help us to be able to close out, which is what we weren't able to do before. So the issue is resolved from a process perspective. So we are doing an identical contract that is a new contract, rather than doing a contract extension. The thought was an extension will be quicker to do, so we won't have to go through all of the process. So that's what we tried to do last year.
Okay, so Chair, to the director, where is that funding? Is it still sitting, or are we going to get that back, or is that going to be used too of the funding that you're also asking for?
Through the chair, decertified funding should be available back to the council member through the NDA. So once it is decertified, then it would go back to the balance of NDA. So it would go back to your account.
Okay, and one last question. Okay, let me see, I had one more question. Okay, that was it. I thought I had another one. No, that was it. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Harsh and then Polensek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the clarity of anybody still watching at home and trying to follow along with this, through the chair to the director, the Community Development Block Grant program was created in 1975 by Republican President Gerald Ford, correct? Yes. And through the chair to the director, for the last 50 years, the federal government has allocated tens of millions of dollars to America's urban areas as part of this program, correct?
Correct.
And through the chair to the director, this has gone like clockwork for 50 years now. And we usually find out in like February or March about the allocations every year, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. And through the chair to the director, it wasn't until the Trump administration decided to wait until the actual last day legally allowed to determine whether or not they were going to even fund this program this year. And on the last day legally allowed, they actually decided they were going to go ahead and fund this program. Isn't that correct?
Through the chair, I cannot speak exactly to that. It was delayed, and that is what I can speak to. Is it was delayed later than it would have normally.
Through the chair, it was the latest delay that anyone's ever witnessed. I believe in living memory.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And through the chair, we did find out that we are going to get the 38 or 40 million or whatever the money is this year very recently. However, because of the delay through the chair to the director, we were not able to start processing payments and distributions and paperwork until we had the finality from the federal government that the money was coming. Correct?
Correct.
Right. And so through the chair to the director, this $1.2 million acts as an advance for the CDCs who now have to wait a long time for us to get this money from the federal government. But this is essentially functionally an advance on the CDBG that's coming from the federal government, correct?
Through the chair, we are not characterizing it as that. We don't see it as that. We see it as a separate program. But this program is an emergency program caused by the delay.
And through the chair, we see the $1.2 million getting replenished, though, from the CDBG, that we can move some money around within other spending, so that we're not actually putting new spending. We're just reordering the allocation of CDBG to cover this extreme delay in the federal government's actions.
This will be new general fund money that we have not typically seen.
Correct, but the money is going to be balanced out by moving other spending when the CDBG money comes in.
Through the chair, yes.
Right. So through the chair to the chair, this really feels to me like a unfortunate accounting maneuver that we have to make in order to cover up the fact that the federal government's been doing something for 50 years, longer than I've been alive. And this year, for the first time ever, they decided to just screw around and wait until the last possible moment to do the same thing they've been doing for 50 years. And as a result, we have to figure out how to keep the city functioning while they don't do their job. And that puts us in a really difficult spot. So we are using general funds to smooth this over and make sure that the infrastructure that has existed in this city for 5 decades does not collapse under the Trump administration. That's how I see this. And the people that work in these neighborhoods are doing work that nobody else in the city, as was pointed out earlier, Burton Bell Carr handled the fire and did rescue work, financial rescue work that nobody else was set up to be able to handle, because that's what CDCs do. And earlier today, we were talking about how CDCs advance on the 50/50 program, and they do things that the city cannot do. And I don't think it's worth us risking the collapse of that environment because we have to make up for the federal government failing to do their job. Mr. Chair, to me, this is just a matter of trying to fix mistakes that are coming to us from up on high, and we're trying to smooth a rocky road. So it might be odd and it might be unusual, but it seems very necessary. And I think we need to get this done, Mr. Chair, and thank you.
Thank you. 1 second. Do you want me to put you back on, Councilman Starr? Okay, I got one other council person. I'll put you back on. Councilman Michael Polensky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Director. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, Madam Director. I'm going over your list of recommendations and awards. Did the Greater Collinwood Development Corporation, have they applied at all?
Through the chair, there is not an application process this year. We've foregone that. So no.
Okay. So then, you know they're in the process of reorganization with the
Cleveland Neighborhood Progress.
Yeah, Cleveland Neighborhood Progress. I keep thinking of all these groups. So were they considered at all?
Through the chair, this is exactly who was funded last year through this program. And so if they were not in there last year, they're not in there this year for ease and simplicity. What I will note through the chair is that that doesn't mean that they're not eligible for NDA dollars.
Okay, I understand that. But as my colleagues have alluded, that every time we turn around, we have neighborhood groups and organizations asking for those funds, and every council person is just stretched to the limit. And believe me when I tell you this, we have, every time you turn around, I'm looking at, just a request I received just recently within the last week about groups wanting to give away school supplies and backpacks. And, it's just, I'm going down this, and as one of my colleagues indicated about for athletic teams, and people have no idea the requests that are made of us. More than ever in my time in public office, we're being pulled in each and every direction. So I just wanted to find out how the groups, because I noticed there's some other neighborhoods in here as well that have not been identified nor funded. So, okay, so it's based on who you funded last year.
Through the chair, it's based on the last RFP cycle, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilman Starr.
No, I just want to wrap up real quick, Council President, just for some clarifications too from our council colleague, Harsh. The first CDC started in 1966 when Senator Robert F. Kennedy came up with the idea to be able to fund underserved neighborhoods such as a Bed-Stuy neighborhood in New York. And within that neighborhood, it's really similar to some of the challenges that we have in certain neighborhoods here in Cleveland. The intent for those federal dollars was not to say, give it to everybody. It was to invest in certain neighborhoods who have not seen any investment, who didn't have those private investors or anything to help the neighborhood. So they were trying to come up with a process to use federal dollars to help those neighborhoods. Now you talk about 50, 60 plus years later, we just say give everybody the same amount of money and we should be good. Be happy that you got that. And that's the reason why we don't see our neighborhoods thriving like other neighborhoods. You know, one of the things that I learned from one of my colleagues, Kerry McCormick, when he speaks about Tremont, when he speaks about different neighborhoods that once didn't have development, they didn't. What they did was they came up with a 20-year, 10-year plan. And you talking about investments and got private sector, got all type of individuals while utilizing federal dollars to build up a neighborhood. Instead, we don't do that. We just say everybody else just keep getting small pieces, small pieces, small pieces. Be happy that you got this. Be happy that you got a CDC. Be happy that you get that. And that's the reason why you look up and see we're ranked as one of the most poorest neighborhoods, because we all want things to be so equal and we don't want to address the equity. These dollars were intended for low, moderate income neighborhoods. And we don't use them in low, moderate income neighborhoods the same way we may use them in different neighborhoods. And that's where you have the frustration. That's where you have the disconnect, because everybody's saying, hey, we need it for my neighborhood. I got that. Well, your 25% does not equal to the same 75% of low, moderate income neighborhood that I have. So don't try to say that it's the same thing. It's not. It's not. So if you only have 25%, you should get your fair share of what is needed for 25% of your area. But don't say you get the same equal share as a neighborhood that has more poverty, more people living in poverty than others. The reason why you have that, there's no reason that we can say how these dollars can be used to build up a neighborhood that once had nothing, but then next thing you know, you look up, you see east side of Cleveland have anything. There's plenty of neighborhoods where we have, during the summertime, we on council colleagues, we have to complain and deal with vacant lots. We got to talk about grass getting cut all the time, because that's a sign of what used to be developed that's no longer there. So now you got to put more dollars to just maintaining our parking lots, because we're not developing. Because guess what? The money that could possibly help us develop, we were saying we're going to give you the same equal $437,000. You get the same $437,000. You get the same $437,000, but then you can't get the dollars out the door because you can't use it the same way that others use it. So therefore, when we do go to the federal government and then they come back and say you still got money in your bank account, it's because certain neighborhoods cannot use the dollars. There's only so many salary positions that you can actually hire for you to be able to say, hey, on the report. But guess what numbers and which actual data they use to go and apply for this grant? Neighborhoods like mine. We're using the neighborhoods in Huff, Central, Kinsman, North St. Clair, Collinwood, Glenville, Mount Pleasant neighborhood, Buckeye, to use those. And I'm not trying to use this as a way to beat up on neighborhoods, but I'm just calling it what it is. But this was designed in 1966. Go look and do your research of how Bed-Stuy, New York looked in 1966. And then look what has transcended and how they develop now in 2025. It's like night and day. Because Senator Robert Kennedy understood the task of why he is advocating to put these dollars into that neighborhood so they can start thriving. There's no reason we can say we got neighborhoods, but they don't got grocery stores? And you telling me CDBG can't be used to solve this? Or we got to beg and ask a professional team, ask a billionaire to come and save our neighborhood when we getting $20 million a year? Come on, man. Come on. Like, it's frustrating because people act like it's, oh, we deserve to have the same thing as you. You ain't got the same poverty as me. You ain't dealing with the same challenges as me.
I would encourage you to be able to use your time on the floor.
And I'm sorry.
I want to make sure you be
I definitely
your
will.
point across, but I would encourage you to make your statement on the floor.
My statement is once again is let's stop trying to say it's cool when you do it, but it got a problem when we do it. And at the end of the day, we have enough opportunities. We have enough council members in at this council table out of 17 members who are some of the neighborhoods that I spoke about, we should be advocating to make sure the dollars go the right way and CDBG be actually spent the way they're supposed to be spent from the federal government level. And I yield, Chair.
All right, thank you, Councilman.
That was a good piece.
All right, so seeing no other questions, ordinance number 854-2025 will be considered for passage by the entire council tonight. You have one more piece, Director. Ordinance number 858-2025 by council members Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Community Development to apply for and accept grants from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for PY 2025 under the Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 for the 2025 Federal Home Investment Partnership Program, Emergency Solutions Grant Program, and the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS Program. Director.
Thank you, Chair. So this piece is a piece that you all see every year when we are having hearings with one difference. So this year we're asking to apply and accept so that when the money comes down, so that we can get the money down from HUD. What this does not have in it is expend. And I believe that expend will happen on the other side of some sort of CDBG hearings. So this is so that we are prepared and we can continue to go through our process of getting the CDBG dollars down so that I can sign a grant agreement when it is available to me to sign from the federal government, which is, as noted in the last piece, at an unknown date. But we don't want to be waiting on legislation for me to be able to sign contracts, to sign an agreement with HUD. Again, I won't be able to expend these dollars through this legislation, but I will be able to accept the dollars that have been allocated by HUD.
All right, thank you. You know, I forgot something on the last one. I apologize. On ordinance number 854, before we close that out, Attorney, I do have Councilman McCormick, or did any of the other council members want to proffer this amendment? That Councilman Hairston?
He's been introduced yet, or was it just heard from her?
It's intro and passage.
It's intro passage tonight.
Yeah.
So because it was not introduced already, I don't think we can amend it
Okay,
at the
so-
moment, but it should be amended prior to.
Yeah. Going to the floor tonight?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So can we make sure that we follow up on that amendment and make sure that he has that? Okay, thank you.
And just a note, we did review that, and administration is okay with that amendment.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll go back to 854-2025. Are there any questions regarding the housing for AIDS patients? All right, Council. 854-2025. I'm sorry. Let me get this. All right, let me slow down. Just trying to get us into the lightning round. Ordinance number 858-2025 by council members Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Community Development to apply for and accept grants from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for PY 2025 under the Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 for the 2025 Federal Home Investment Partnership Program, Emergency Solutions Grant Program, and the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS Program. The director gave an explanation. Do we have any questions regarding ordinance number 858-2025?
Thank you. And-
Councilwoman Spencer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Is the amendment for this piece or for the piece that we?
The amendment was for the 854 piece, and the only amendment that they wanted to ask is instead of having neighborhood services, it would be for general operations.
Okay.
So that was the amendment, is in section 2 of 854, and that's what the recommended amendment was for.
Chair, on the point.
On that point, Councilman.
Just as clarification, that was at the request of Chairman Hairston.
Yep.
Just
Okay.
so everyone's clear.
All right. So seeing no other
Oh, I
questions.
do on 858.
Okay, please, if you have anything on 858, Councilwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a process question. Can is this a prerequisite to the agreement between the administration and HUD, or is this a piece? How does this flow in terms of the block grant hearings through the chair?
Through the chair, this is what would normally be at the block grant hearings, which we haven't done yet. But we want to ensure that while we want to be able to have plenty of time for debate and allow that process to take place, what this piece does is allows me to accept what's been allocated by the federal government, and so that when there is a grant agreement, we can accept those dollars.
And then last question through the chair. However, we cannot hold the block grant hearings until there is a grant agreement through the chair. Is that accurate?
Through the chair, no.
Okay, all right. So block grant hearing can happen prior to that grant agreement. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there any other questions regarding 858-2025? Seeing no other questions, 858-2025 will be considered by the entire council for passage tonight. Ordinance number 6, thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 665-2025 by council members Conwell and Griffin by departmental request. Is the Health Department here? Health Department, if they could come over. Okay, this is an emergency ordinance to amend sections 241.05 and 241.35 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, as amended by ordinance number 1143-2024, passed October 28, 2024, relating to food shop license fees and categories and fees. And is it Assistant Director, Commissioner?
Commissioner.
Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
Please proceed. Thank you, sir.
So basically, this is routine legislation that allows us to set the fees for food shops, basically. And we do this every year.
Thank you. Councilman Conwell, you relieved this out of Health and Human Services? I did. Okay. Any questions regarding ordinance number 665-2025? Seeing no questions, ordinance number 665-2025 stands approved. Thank you. Next one is ordinance number 707-2025 by council members Conwell and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance to amend sections 241.02 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, as amended by ordinance number 507-15, passed July 22nd, 2015, relating to enforcement and inspection of food shops. Director or Commissioner?
To the chair, this basically, in summary, it just allows us to tag and remove from use any article that we feel is a public health hazard. So for example, if we go to a food shop and they're using equipment that we feel is potentially hazardous to the food, we can tag it and remove it from use.
Thank you. Councilman Conwell, you relieved this?
Yeah, let me ask a question.
Councilman Conwell, please proceed.
You know, as I mentioned always, I'm big on execution. And have you guys done that before?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and how many times have you done it, do you think? You know?
Since I've been here since March 2023, I'd say about at least 4 to 6 times. We did what we call a voluntary destruction. So we'll ask the owner to dispose of the food that's potentially hazardous.
Don't just do voluntary. Go into some of these stores and look at the meats and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you know, because a businessman don't want to throw away their products. But we got to go in there and protect our residents, through the chair. I mean, that's just where I'm in. I don't forget that voluntary stuff. You got to go in there and walk in there and put boots on the ground. Through the chair.
We do. The voluntary destruction is just a term. Basically, we tell them they need to dispose of the bad product.
Okay, and even if they volunteer, you still go back in there and you check on them, because if their energy compels them to be a certain way, that's just the way they're going to be. So, I mean, that's just where I'm at with that, through the chair.
I would agree, sir.
All right, thank you. And
All
thank
right.
you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 707-2025 stands approved. We'll move to ordinance number 722-2025 by council members Conwell and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Health to enter into a contract with the Ohio Department of Health to perform investigations of violations regarding smoking in workplaces and other public places. Director?
to the chair, this is basically a renewal contract. We've been doing this contract for many years, just as to continue the program so we can, excuse me, so we can continue to do investigations at places that are doing smoking where they shouldn't be, such as workplaces and public places.
Thank you. Councilman Conwell, you relieve this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no questions, ordinance number 707-2025 stands approved. Thank you, Commissioner Chambers.
All right, thank you.
Nice lapel pin. You might need to talk to that guy at the end of the table.
He's not even listening.
He ain't even paying attention, is he? He don't even know.
I got your 1911 reference too.
All right, you got it, didn't you? Okay, I got you. All right, got you. All right, Public Works. First, Public Works. I'm sorry, Capital Projects. My apologies, Capital Projects. Yeah.
You called 707 last time, it was 722. So if you could just call 722.
722-2025 stands approved. Okay? All right. Team, I gotta call you back on the middle of the council meeting. All right. Ordinance number 709-2025 by council members Casey, Bishop, Griffin, by departmental request and emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to request Cuyahoga County include items not eligible for federal funds in the resurfacing of West 140th Street from Purtis Avenue to Lakewood Heights Boulevard and to cause payment for the city's share. Director.
Mr. Chairman, so this is for West 140th Street. It goes through Councilman Kesey's ward as well as Councilman Slife's ward. And as is typical for these types of projects, if there are elements of the project that the city requests that are not eligible for the federal funding, then the city needs to put in the funding for those elements. In this situation, we have 8 rectangular rapid flashing beacons, which are the safety measures that you see in the city across major roadways. And we want to install 4 of these at 4 intersections: Bellshire Avenue, Kerrydale Avenue, Sacramento Avenue, and San Diego Avenue. And as a result, we need to amend the 2023 legislation to include authorization for that expenditure. There are approximately $12,000 each, and we're rounding up to about $100,000 for those 8 flashing beacons.
Thank you. Councilman Bishop, are you good with this?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer up an amendment on ordinance number 709, 2025.
Okay.
I would like to insert, excuse me for a second, at the end of section 2, I would like to attach on after sub-fund 722, the Director of Capital Projects shall inform the Clerk of Council in writing the contract award amount after completing the bid process. Okay? You want me to repeat that, Mr. Chairman?
Attorney, do you need that in writing, or can you repeat that?
At the end of section 2, the Director of Capital Projects shall inform the Clerk of Council in writing the contract award amount after completing the bid process.
Okay, do you have that, sir? Yes. Okay. I have an amendment that's been proffered by the chair of the committee. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second from Councilman Danny Kelly. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Therefore, the amendment carries. Please make sure that 709-2025 is amended. Okay? All right. Councilman Casey and Councilman Slife. I don't see Slife on here as a co-sponsor. Councilman Slife, would you want to be added as a co-sponsor to this?
I think those locations are all in 16.
All in 16? Okay, but then Councilman Casey, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, nobody has reached out to me about this. This is the first I'm reading of it. I don't even know what an RRFB is. I don't know what the flashing beacons are. This is a main street, but it's also a residential street, so I don't know if these beacons are going to be going 20. I don't know anything about this project. Nobody. The only thing I know about it is that residents of the city of Lakewood have reached out because they're tearing up their tree lawns to put in some bike path, and I got a call, and I know Councilman Slife got a call regarding it too, to see if I have no idea about this project. All I know is that it's supposed to be resurfaced.
So through the chairman of the council, first of all, on the bike paths, Councilman Slife did flag that for me, and there are no plans for bike paths in the city of Cleveland portion of this project. And I do know that the mobility team looked at it, but just the width of the roads and the sidewalks.
Yeah, and Lakewood,
it
they're
just
tearing
wasn't.
up the tree lawns or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So, but I'm going to ask Manager Swatowski to flag how these locations were selected, if it was through the mobility team or through traffic engineering, because I'm not familiar with how this became a request for the project.
To the chair, to the councilman, these recommendations were made after the original ordinance and we had set the scope already, because you're right, it is a mill and fill job. It's federal funds, and that's what that project was doing. It was looked at as part of the mobility team's course of action, and Director Mersman came out and recommended these 4 areas for RRFBs. RRFBs, if you look right outside on Lakeside, right by the auditorium there, it's those things that when you walk by and you press the button, they start flashing, allowing you to make the crossing.
So there'll be nothing in the roadway, though,
No.
right? Like, it's like on Lorraine, we have,
You have a crosswalk.
right. So this is just the flashing beacons when you're going to cross
Right.
with the crosswalk.
Which only operate when you press the button.
Okay, so it's not a,
Along with the painted crosswalk, but yes.
right, okay.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
thank you.
And our apologies, you weren't aware of these improvements. We thought that was part of a mobility discussion.
I haven't had a mobility discussion with nobody regarding 140th.
Okay.
Do we know when the scope of the project's going to be done?
Construction starts right now, it looks to be April or June 2026. Construction completed in fall of 27. Oh,
right.
excuse me, yeah, did I say that right? Yeah, fall 27.
And if you could please, Mr. Chairman, through the directors, please keep me in the loop, because, you know, that's the educational corridor. We got 3,000 kids a day going to school on there. We've got 4 schools. We got a library. We got a community center on that street. There's a lot of traffic on 140th, and I don't want to hold anything up, because that's a very long street going from Puritas all the way to Lakewood Heights Boulevard, but especially between Puritas and Lorraine, that's residential, it's schools, it's everything there. So that's going to be, so I want to be able to communicate with the schools for drop-offs and all that other stuff when construction's going on. So if you could please keep me in the loop of when we're going to start this and time frame and everything else. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, to the
Thank you.
councilman, if I could just, I misstated the construction start date, it's September 2026 to November 2027, and the county will be administrating it.
Right, so here we're going to have a very big street tore up for a year and over a year. So not only is that street residential, but like I said before, we've got five schools, including a high school, most populated high school probably in the city, on that street right there. So there's going to have to be a lot of coordinating, especially if this is
Understood.
going through winter months, right? And the street's residential as well, so.
Understood.
It's going to be, if you could please keep me in the loop so that we can keep communicating to the schools and the residents on that street as to what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Bishop, you had a follow-up.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the amendment I just offered, I left something important out of the amendment, so can I submit the amendment, Mr. Chairman?
So I believe you have to withdraw your previous amendment, and when you redraw your previous amendment, I don't think we have to vote on it, but then you have to reintroduce. Well, you know what? We have to withdraw your amendment, then we do have to vote on your withdrawal of the amendment, and then you have to resubmit the amendment as you wish.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to withdraw the amendment I just offered on ordinance number 709, 2025.
Do we have a second?
And that withdrawal.
Second to withdraw from Councilman Kerry McCormick. Is there any discussion on that withdrawal? Seeing no other discussion, all in favor of the withdrawal of the amendment for 709, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Therefore, Mr. Bishop, please, or Councilman, please proffer your amendment.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer an amendment to ordinance number 709, 2025. At the end of section 2, insert, and shall be paid for from sub-funds number 20 SF 568, 20 SF 574, 20 SF 579, 20 SF 586, 20 SF 592, 20 SF 597, 20 SF 702, 20 SF 712, 20 SF 718, and 20 SF 722. The Director of Capital Projects shall inform the Clerk of Council in writing the contract award amount after completing the bid process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Attorney, do you have that? Yes. Okay, do we have a second to that amendment that was proffered? Councilman Conwell has seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. Therefore, 709-2025 as amended stands approved. Thank you so much. Please sign on. Next is 712-2025 as amended by Councilmembers McCormick, Bishop, Griffin, by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to apply for and accept a grant from the Ohio and Erie Canalway Association for the Strategic Initiatives Grant for improvements at Clark Field, and to enter into various written standards, purchases, and agreement and requirement contracts to implement the grant. And I'll look at the amendment. The amendment states that there is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in section 2, starting at line 3, strike fund number 52, SF001, and insert fund numbers 20 SF 595, 20 SF 700, 20 SF 708, 20 SF 714, 20 SF 720. This was dated 7/8/2025 by Patricia McGinty Aston, Assistant Director of Law. Director.
Mr. Chairman, so we have received a grant for the Towpath Trail area in Clark Field from the Ohio and Erie Canalway Association. And it is for improvements to Clark Field where there's a piece of public art that has been waiting for foundations to be set so that the art could be placed on it. A great monolithic piece of art, as well as improvements to the accessibility to the Towpath Trail where we have some connector trails that tie into it from the corner of West 12th and Clark. And so this grant would be for $15,000, and this ordinance would authorize us to put in $35,000 of match money for the grant. And so we're seeking authorization to move forward with this grant and the implementation of it.
Thank you, Councilman Bishop.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We vetted this and we fully support it for passage, although, however, I want to offer amendment to ordinance number 712-2025.
Please proceed.
Yes, I'd like to amend 712-25. At the end of section 5, insert, the Director of Capital Projects shall provide written notice to the Clerk of Council whenever any purchase is made under this section, which notice shall include the details of any such cooperative purchases. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do we have a second for that amendment? Councilman Danny Kelly, a second in that amendment. Is there any discussion or clarification on this amendment? Seeing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Therefore, the amendment carries. Ordinance 712-2025. I hope that everybody's seeing the pattern here, which is what Councilman Bishop and I asked him to do, is to make sure that we clearly identify where sub-funds and where dollars are coming from in order to pay for some of these projects. So I know he's making a lot of amendments, but that's something that I've asked him and all the chairs to do, is at the chairs level to really try to identify where the funding and all those things are coming from. Okay? All right, thank you. All right, any other discussion on 712-2025? Councilman McCormick, this is, I believe, in the area that you serve, sir?
Yeah, it looks great. This is the the homeless art in my
Yes.
ward, and she's finally getting a home, and I don't ever want to move her ever again.
Yes, sir.
Because nobody else wants her,
Yep.
so she is going to live at this park
Yes.
until the cows come home.
Yep, and
we're
it's a
gonna
big
leave her
enough
there.
park to take on that big art. Yes.
God bless.
Okay, therefore, seeing no other questions, ordinance number 712-2025, as amended, stands approved. Thank you so much. Next, we'll hear ordinance number 718-2025 by Councilmember Slife, Bishop, and Hairston by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to issue a permit to the boards of park commissioners of the Cleveland Metropolitan Park District to encroach into the public rights of way of Old Lorraine Road and River Edge Road by installing, using, and maintaining a 10-foot wide asphalt multi-purpose trail. Director.
Mr. Chairman, so this is what we believe is the last ordinance related to the Old Lorraine Connector Trail that Councilman Slife has been championing for several years now. It is fully funded. It's under construction. Metro Parks and the city have been working together on a connection from Cam's Corners down to the Old Met golf course. And it's an off-road trail, but it connects at two locations to public right-of-way. And so this ordinance gives the right to encroach into the public right-of-way at two locations. One is at River Edge Road, and the other is at Old Lorraine Road. So we're seeking authorization to move forward with these two encroachment permits.
Councilman Bishop, you relieve this out of your committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we fully support this for passage.
Thank you. Councilman Slife? Okay. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 718-2025 stands approved. Please sign on if you are part of the municipal services and DPS committees. Those are the two committees that have to sign these type of encroachment agreements. Finance does not have to. DPS and municipal services. All right. Next one is ordinance number 724-2025, as amended by council members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance determining the method of making the public improvement of repairing specific brick roadways from any and all funds as authorized by the Director of Finance, authorizing the Director of the Mayor's Office of Capital Projects to enter into one or more public improvement contracts for making the improvement, authorizing the Director to apply for and accept any gifts or grants, and authorizing any related agreements. And I will read the amendment. This pretty lengthy amendment, so bear with me. There is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in the title beginning in line 3, strike specific brick roadways from any and all funds as authorized by the Director of Finance and insert brick roadways, and in line 8, after improvement, insert and in quotations. Number 2, in section 1, line 3, strike public improvement requirement. In line 4, after bidders, insert after competitive bidding. In line 3, strike section 2 in its entirety and insert the following. Section 2, that the Director of Capital Projects is authorized to enter into one or more contracts for the making of the public improvement with the lowest responsible bidder or bidders after competitive bidding on a unit basis for the improvement provided. However, that each separate trade and each distinct component part of the improvement be treated as a separate improvement, and each or any combination of the trades or components may be the subject of a separate contract on a unit basis. Number 4, strike sections 6, 7, and 8 in their entirety and renumber the existing sections 9 and 10 to new section 7, section 6, and section 7. This is dated 6/30/25 by Patricia McGinty Aston, Assistant Director of Law. Director.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, thank you for reading that ordinance amendment. Essentially what it did is it changed it from, it was drafted such that it was to be a requirements contract for brick. We already have a requirements contract that includes brick. The point of this legislation is to bid out specific brick roads to see if we get better pricing than what we have in our current requirements contract. So but this is a little bit of an unusual legislation. We still don't have a red brick street program here in the city, but we do know that council does have capital dollars that could be put towards brick streets if they wish. We also know that we have certain streets that are already funded by the administration. And so our goal was, we spoke to all the council members to see if they wanted to put a street into this bid to see what the price is. And then they could decide if they wanted to go forward with that street or not. And we already have the bid documents drafted, and it's really clear in there that we may not, in all likelihood, we're definitely not going to do all of these streets. But we're going to have what we think are better pricing, and then the council members can decide if they put any streets into this, if they want to move forward. And there are certain streets that we put in here as the administration as well. And so there are, just to the public that is listening, we have a long list of brick streets that we're hoping to address. In all likelihood, they're not all going to get addressed by this ordinance, but it's going to give us at least a path forward that we think is going to be better pricing than if we used our requirements contract.
Thank you.
And I will say there are certain ARPA-funded streets. There were 3 ARPA-funded streets that were brick streets that are included in here, again, for the sake of getting better pricing.
Thank you, and I know you, Mr. Swatowski, reached out to me, and I gave him a few streets. I do want to do a personal privilege that Murray Hill Feast of the Assumption is coming up fast. I hope that somebody can do a once-over to make sure that that brick street is intact, because you're going to have thousands of people on the Feast of the Assumption in less than a month. That'll be convening, and when I walked it recently, it was a lot of missing bricks, and need to make sure we do at least a once-over to make sure that it's safe for the parades and events, okay?
Understood.
And the second thing that I have for you is, how soon will you be getting the cost back to us? The reason why, I've given council members a very strict deadline in order to tell me how they want to spend the NEF funds that we put aside for council members. And I have a sneaky suspicion that many of the council members will want to utilize some of those dollars to potentially do some of these brick streets. So how soon will we get that back? Because we always get accused of letting money sit there, but a lot of times we're trying to get projections back from the parks or streets that we're trying to do. So how soon will we be getting that back?
So Rick's going to give you a date, but let me just say one thing. We have an estimate for each of the brick streets based upon the requirements contract. We're not going to have the bids back for a couple months and processed and all the way through a contract. But we do have the worst case estimate, which is to use the requirements contract amount. So if a council person wants to put money aside for that brick street, they could use that estimate, and then any remaining funds would go back to them or could be used for another street.
Can all members of council get that so that we could look at that? Because I know that I may be willing to invest in some of the brick street process as well.
Yes, so we'll commit to providing each of the council members which brick streets they had requested, or, we won't include the ones that the administration's funding, but the ones that they had requested for consideration. And then, Rick, if you could speak to the timing of the bid.
But if you
too.
could, I want to make sure, because like, for example, in my area, I think that there's portions that the administration is trying to invest in, but then there may be other portions that I may need to invest in. So
Correct.
it might be good for us to have the entire list and not
Okay.
just what council is put forth, so then we could compare notes. And then a lot of us share certain streets. So in some cases, we may want to split dollars or may want to help out or assist another council person if need be.
Mr. Chairman, that's easier for us too. We'll just give one list and everyone could see the prices for all the streets in the ordinance. And I will say that Law Department did require us to list each of the specific streets in the ordinance that we'll include in the bid. So it is too late to add streets. I mean, unless somebody does it at the table right now, but we'll give a list each, as in the ordinance with our cost estimate next to it.
So in other words, speak now or forever hold your peace. I know that Mr. Swatowski tracked
I
me
can
down
add
at
some
least
streets,
2 or
but I'm
3
not sure.
times
You
to
got
make
it.
sure he got
Too.
my streets. So I'm comfortable with the ones that I gave him. I think I can remember by heart East 119th, East 127th, and then also some of Murray Hill. So, just make sure you guys look at that, because once again, once this legislation is passed, you are not able to add streets, okay?
Right.
All right.
Is that a file, Chair?
Is it a foul as a part of the legislation?
Mr. Chairman, looking at the legislation, it's actually in the legislation.
So it's probably attached as a foul.
Yeah.
Okay?
And also just to say that if this works, we can do this on a regular basis, but this is the first time that we're trying this to try to get better prices.
Okay. I have Councilman Polinsik and then Councilman McCormick.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My honorable colleagues, I've been here long enough to remember when we did have a Red Brick Street restoration program. And I want to just say this again, and I want to continue to reiterate this. When you go down these red brick streets and you see utility cuts in the road, and water nor WPC now says in 2025, well, it's been, these took place, these cuts took place 5 years ago or 6 years ago or whatever the case may be. I still contend, Mr. Chairman, and I'll say this to my colleague, esteemed chairman of the Public Utilities Committee as well, I believe that should be up to the utilities to repair those utility cuts. I will argue that to my dying day down here. When you see the cut in the road, in the brick, that should not be the responsibility of the council person or the general fund. That should be under WPC or under the Division of Water. Secondly, we've got to come up with a yearly plan where it's funded by the general fund. You want to take one street each year by each ward or whatever the case may be. I can live with that. I've got 38 red brick streets, and I'm intent on keeping every one of them. Every one of them, because they'll be here for the second coming.
I grew up on one.
That's right. And so at the end of the day, if we take care of the red brick streets, they'll last forever. In my time here, I've had other streets resurfaced 3 times. I think about that all the time. I've had to have other streets resurfaced 3 times. The red brick streets, you have to patch the holes and make sure you patch Murray Hill so I don't have to catch the council president if he falls when I'm walking next to him up here during the feast, okay? I don't want him to get bruised when he's walking, okay? So the fact of the matter is, if you do the very basic maintenance, they'll last forever. They'll last forever. But for some reason, we can't do this. It's beyond me. I'm living in a world I don't understand anymore down here. Let's come up with a plan and get utilities to repair those doggone utility cuts. And you know how it gets done? The gentleman who sits across the hall, and I think it's called the mayor's office, you call your director of utilities and say, you know what, we're going to repair these. You come up with a game plan to repair them. That's how it gets done. That's how it got done under Mike White. It got done under Mike White. I was here. The red brick streets were repaired. Now, there's some that are maybe beyond repair, but the majority of them, if you get out there and patch them, they'll last. That's all I got to say. How many times I got to talk about these frickin' red brick streets till I'm blue in the face? Every year, every year, every year. Let's come up with a game plan. It's not your fault, Director DeRosa. You inherited the problem. But we got to come up with a plan. And again, protect the council president from falling on his face when he's walking up there.
All right. Councilman McCormick. can I
Thank you,
see the
Chair.
list again?
All right, so
Just real quick.
can I add to the list?
Come on.
I can amend it?
Where is the list?
And just today at the table.
All right, because
Yeah.
this is for Ward, this would be like Ward 3 discretionary.
Mm-hmm.
So I can, okay, great. So I would be amending it because it's in the legislation, and I'll get this to the attorney.
And Mr. Chairman, again, just to say, what you're doing is you're adding a list that we're going to put in the bid.
That you'll get a price
And you'll
for.
decide later
Yep,
if you want to
exactly
actually
right.
resurface it.
Yep,
Yes.
great.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Chairman, then I'd like to move to amend ordinance 724-2025. And this would be to add 2 streets in Ward 3 to get a price for. To the list, I don't know, Mike's got the legislation. To the Assistant Law Director, do you have the list in front of you? I have a list here. Great, and I'll come down here and give these to you in writing, but I'll say it out loud too. So I'd like to add Waco, W-A-C-O Court, between West 26th to End and West 33rd Place from Whitman Avenue to Bridge Avenue. And I'll walk down, sir, and give this to you.
I'm gonna do all the amendments and then we'll do a second on those amendments.
Okay.
Can you make an amendment for me too?
Yeah.
I got
It
an
should be
amendment too.
East 127th, not East 126th. I erred on that one.
Please
It should
put
be-
that in my amendment.
Yeah, so
got one
please
too.
add that to the amendment.
Same limits?
Same limits that will go from Shaker Boulevard to Larchmere Boulevard, but it's actually 127th. I thought I made a mistake when I was walking it the other day. The other one that I want to add to that is Hessler, from Ford to Hessler Court. And then I already gave you East 119th, so that's good. And then Murray Hill, if we could just put Murray Hill in all the segments, and then I'll determine what I can support and not support, okay? Thank you. Councilman Bishop has to add to that. So we got, what we're gonna do is, anybody that wants to add the amendments, we'll get
under my
those
amendment,
now.
yeah.
And then we'll take seconds after anybody adds brick streets, okay? Everybody understand that? So Councilman Bishop, you're up next.
Mr. Chairman, Councilman Polinsky has an amendment.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
I'll go after
Okay.
Ms. Polinsky.
East 176th Street from Grovewood to Nottingham. East 177th from Grovewood to Nottingham. Maple Cliff from Lakeshore Boulevard to Dorchester. And Chickasaw, CHICKSAW, from East 185th Street to 197th. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman
Chair.
Bishop?
Go ahead. He can-
Okay, Councilman Harsh?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I know we talked about this before, but we're just talking about looking at the street to come up with a ballpark for what it
Yes.
would cost. Okay.
So
in-
just, this
through-
is just an estimate.
Because I only have the one street that I'm doing ward funds.
Chair, Councilman, this is not a commitment. This is to give you information.
Price.
Information,
Then
right,
you-
right.
then you
But
decide.
exact prices. This will
Yeah.
give us an
Oh.
exact price.
So we already talked about the one street that I'm already committed funds to resurface, to fix the brick on. But while we're take a look at them, could you add to just take a look at? Where is Honey Hut? What is that? That is.
You had Wichita.
Sorry. Yeah, you got Wichita. The street names in Old Brooklyn change with every single street, so you got to figure out in between what and what. It's the most frustrating thing in the world. It is killing me. It is killing me. It is. Oh my gosh, I live here and I apologize. There it is. It is Buechner. 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 Buechner between State, and it goes all the way to West 45th.
All right. Any more streets before we take a second? Okay. Any more streets before we get a second? All right. Do I have a second for those amendments?
Mr. Chairman,
Council,
Mr. Chairman, I still got to make my amendments, or do you want me to do it separately?
you can do yours separate after we do that. Councilwoman Spencer has seconded those street amendments. Any discussion on those amendments for the streets? Seeing no discussion, all in favor say it. They're just voting on the amendment. Okay, so any other, seeing no other discussion on the amendments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now, I believe Councilman Bishop would like to make an amendment, and then we'll go back to discussing the actual legislation. Councilman Bishop?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to offer an amendment on ordinance number 724, 2025. At the end of section 4, insert, the Director of Capital Projects shall provide written notice to the Clerk of Council whenever any purchase is made under this section, which notice shall include the details of any such cooperative purchase. And the second amendment I'd like to make is in section 9, line 4, strike future and replace with 2025.
Okay. Councilman Bishop has proffered an amendment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Michael Polensek has seconded. Is there any discussion on the two proffered amendments? Seeing no discussion on those two amendments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Therefore, Councilman Bishop's amendment is carried. Does the attorney have that language? I have those. Okay, so he has the amendments. Thank you. Once again, Councilman Bishop is on it. If you guys see a trend happening, it's for a reason. I hope everybody's watching, because we want to make sure that we're going to utilize our oversight to make sure we understand where those dollars are coming from, okay? All right, Council, this is back to discussing the actual ordinance. So is there any other discussion? I think Councilwoman Spencer had a topic she wanted to discuss.
Thank you, Council President. And my question actually is about Section 9. The verbal discussion we've been having today is that there is no identified source of funds attached to these brick streets. In other words, we as council have identified the streets that we want to go out to bid to get a price. However, Section 9 seems to state that there is a funding source for these brick streets. So I would like to be sure to clarify, and perhaps with our attorney as well, what Section 9 is saying if we're saying we don't have funding available, through the chair.
So through the chair, the councilwoman, great question. So there are certain streets that the administration is funding out of this list of streets. So there are 3 ARPA-funded streets, which is Train Court, West 22nd Street, and Halley Avenue. And those are funded by ARPA funds that were identified through the Back to Basics process. And again, instead of using requirements contract, we're hoping to get better prices here. The administration is also funding Simpson Court, which is in Ward 7, which is kind of a mishap of a situation that we're, through the councilwoman, we're going to address for the residents on that street. And then we're also funding Murray Hill. And so those are the streets that we have funding to go towards. And that should be what the subfunds that are listed there represent. I'll defer to the lawyers, but we did have in the legislative summary that other funding sources as authorized, which would include councilmatic funds, should be authorized in here as a source of funding.
That's very helpful through the chair. So I think also it's my understanding, based on our discussion at the table, that MoCap will come back with a list of all the streets that will be put out for bid. And it will also indicate which are already funded by those sources, by ARPA or what have you, and which council members would have, or not get funded, and for which council members would have to identify funds. Is that an accurate statement through the
Through
chair?
the chairman of the councilman, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And then my last question is, I do have a street on the list here, Fir Avenue, that I don't have the exact number pulled up right now, but it was a very high number. It was just short of $500,000.
Yes.
To restore a not very lengthy brick street. That is an extraordinary amount of money to, so how much money reasonably are we hoping to, we're trying to take a haircut, right? We're trying to shave off the costs by not going through our requirements contract. Do we have any sense of how much of a reduced price we might be aiming to get through the chair?
Through the chairman to the councilwoman, first of all, Fir Avenue is a little bit special. It has been in the news. It is a very short street, like you said, and it's a very high price tag. So our goal is that we're going to test out that high price tag to see if the numbers are more reasonable. But as far as how much of a haircut, can you guesstimate on that, Rick?
To the chair of the councilman, councilwoman, I'd rather not guess on that. It's just we have not priced it in this manner before, and it's something we'll see how we go. I mean, typically you see savings when you bid something as opposed to going in a requirements contract, because it's more, hopefully we get competition and people coming for it, because it is a fairly large contract. So we'll find out together.
Okay, all righty. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, any other questions regarding this ordinance? All right, seeing no other questions, where's the ordinance at again? Who got it?
724.
Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 724-2025 stands approved. Thank you all.
As amended.
As amended, 724-25 as amended stands approved.
Councilman, we should have one for Lee Road that was supposed to be passed under suspension.
I'm going under the suspensions now.
Yeah.
I got you right here.
Okay.
I'm just now getting to the suspensions
Okay.
on those projects.
Okay.
All right. Hold on. All right. This is for intro and passage. This is ordinance number 849-2025 by Council Members Jones, Bishop, Griffin, by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to amend the title and sections 3 of and 10 of ordinance number 762, 2023, passed August 16, 2023, to supplement the ordinance by adding new section 3A relating to the improvement of Lee Road from Miles to Invermere Avenue. Director.
Mr. Chairman, so Lee Road has been one of the transformational roadway projects that we've been focused on for the last couple years. We have done a tremendous job, I would say, to accumulate money towards that project. We've been working closely with Councilman Jones on the scope of that project, and currently we have a project cost estimate of $21 million. With the help of NOACA, we were able to work with Cuyahoga County, who agreed that they would run both Cleveland's portion of the project as well as Shaker Heights' portion of Lee Road project, so that we would have one design firm designing the entire corridor, and we would likely bid it out as two projects, but it would be bid in a very consistent manner so that they're sequenced one right after the other. So what this ordinance does is it allows us to pivot from an ODOT run project, which is how it was intended to run if we were running it ourselves, to a county run project. And so this ordinance authorizes the county to run the project, to issue the design and the construction contracts, as well as to include $1 million into the project from their motor vehicle tax fund. And so we're seeking authorization from council today under suspension because county council is taking this to their council in August, and they were seeking our approval first before they took it to their council. And so with your indulgence, we would like to discuss this today, and when we're hoping for passage tonight.
All right, Councilman Bishop.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We've discussed this and we fully support it for passage.
Thank you. I know Councilman Jones has really been trying to push this for a long time. Has anybody talked to him and made sure that Councilman Jones is aware, and is he supportive of this?
Yes, I've had conversations with Councilman Jones. He understands not just the concept of the ordinance, but also the request for passage under suspension, and he's in full support.
Okay. All right. Sounds good to me. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 849-2025 stands approved.
Thank
It will
you.
be considered for full consideration tonight. Thank you. Who's the young lady you had at the table with you?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Katie Moore, who is in capital projects as a project manager for special projects, typically on the roadway side. And she's one of the superstars that we have in our department handling these complicated projects.
Welcome to the table. It's just always good to know the machine, the people behind the machine. Okay?
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Thank
All right,
you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move to finance. All right. This is ordinance number 835-2025 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request and emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance to consent to the assignment of contract number CT 15-1506-PS 2023*0287 from Diligent Canada, Inc. to Diligent Corporation, and authorizing the director to enter into an amendment to the assigned contract regarding certain terms. And I'm going to ask the council members if they could stick around because I want to make sure we maintain quorum. Director.
Yeah, through the chair to the committee, so we're asking for this assignment from Diligent Canada to Diligent Corporation. This is a software company that provides audit software that the internal audit group uses. So Diligent Canada actually has a subsidiary, Diligent Corporation, that's U.S.-based. So they are actually transferring their U.S. clients to this U.S. subsidiary. So it's a reorg within the company. Like I said, they offer audit software for risk assessments, audit plans, automation of audit practices, and workflow management. There's no change in any of the other terms, no increased costs, or anything else. It's just simply putting it under the subsidiary. And I have the Commissioner of Internal Audit here to answer any questions.
So moved.
All right. First of all, what did we use before?
This.
The same? So this is just the same?
Name change.
Just a name change?
Just a name change.
All
It's
right.
nothing else has changed.
Well, let me say this. You got one of the hidden stars in City Hall, so if Ms. Brandt is requesting it, then it's all good. You got to know who to bring to the table to make everybody say yes easy.
To the chair, I'm going to bring her for everything.
Yeah. All right.
She
thank
said,
you.
please don't.
Yeah. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 835-2025 stands approved. Thank you all. Appreciate it. All right. Human Resources, Director Cole. All right, Director Cole has two pieces. One is ordinance number 829-2025 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to amend section 22 of ordinance number 194-2021 passed March 29th, 2021 as amended relating to compensation for various classifications. Director Cole.
Thank you, Chairman and committee. Would you like to hear the care piece first or the other piece?
I got all of them. You got this one, which is care.
Okay.
So this is the care piece.
Care piece.
So this is 829, which is the care piece.
Okay.
And then the next one is the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent
OPBA.
Association.
Okay, thank you again, Chairman and Committee. The 8/29/2025 is for,
Hold on, if you could, everybody, if you could, please keep it down. We got to make sure that we keep quorum, but please stay in the room, okay? Thank you.
this piece is for amendments to the pay ban.
Conwell, we need you to stay in the room so that we can make quorum. All right, please go ahead. Please go ahead, Ms. Conwell.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is for amendments to the pay ban related to the care conciliation that was completed in April and then subsequently passed over for the pay ban changes. The contract itself was concluded through conciliation. So this is just to pay amend the pay ban for the appropriate salaries.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions regarding ordinance number 829-2025? Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 829-2025 will be considered for passage this evening by the full body. Ordinance number 836-2025 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance approving the collective bargaining agreement with the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, OPBA, Protective Services Unit, and to amend Section 14 of Ordinance Number 194-2021 passed March 29, 2021, as amended relating to compensation for various classifications. Director.
Thank you again, Chairman and Committee. Yes, this is to ratify the OPBA contract for 2022 through 2025. Very standard. The bargaining unit contains approximately 50 employees. We are currently working on the subsequent successor agreement, but in this agreement, there were base wages of 2% in each of the years, incorporation of some language for the non-discrimination policy, article, a change for the military leave or incorporation of the military leave ordinance, amending to include the Juneteenth holiday, and then just a look-back change for the discipline article. And that was the main changes to that collective bargaining agreement, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions regarding 836-2025?
Mr. Chairman, just
Councilman Mike Polensek.
Mr. Chairman, again, my honorable colleagues to the director, what departments are affected by that, divisions?
Through the chairman to the councilman, this is for all departments that have any protective service officers under OPBA, but primarily the Department of Public Utilities.
Okay, so that would be water, WPC, and CPP.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding 836-2025? Seeing no other questions, it will be considered by the entire body for passage tonight.
How many bargaining units have been settled so far?
Through the chair to the councilman, we are approximately a third of the way through in terms of full negotiations and at various stages, but all but I believe one are in the process of negotiations at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Boy, that's taking a long time, man.
I asked Michael again.
What?
Michael, through the chair to Councilmember Mike Polensek, how many bargaining units have you met with?
I asked how many bargaining units have they settled with,
Yeah.
and he said approximately a third.
30?
A third.
A third.
I would have thought there would have been more by now, but they said a third.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Fully settled.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. We're going to ordinance number 827-2025 by Councilmembers Jones, Bishop, Gray, Hairston, and Griffin, an emergency ordinance to amend the title, the first and second whereas clauses in section 1 and 2 of ordinance number 482-2023 passed May 31st, 2023, relating to agreements to provide economic development assistance for commercial corridor projects through the Southeast Commercial Corridor Program. Director and team.
Thank you, Council President. I am joined here today by Marvin Owens, the Mayor's Chief Strategy Officer for the Southeast Side Initiative, as well as Cassie Slansky, who is our Senior Investment Manager overseeing our team of Neighborhood Investment Managers, as well as Rosie Warda Hamdan, our Neighborhood Investment Manager for the Southeast Side. And so my apologies to all the Far West region members as Rosie has shifted over there, but I assure you, you're going to be very happy when you meet Grace Harrison, who's joined the team. But to kick this off, I am going to hand it over to Mr. Owens, who has been doing a ton of work here on this.
So thank you, Chair, and the Council. Basically, over the year and a half of implementation of the Southeast Side program, we've discovered a lot of ways we can improve the program. And so one of the things that we are exploring right now, if you can look at the map, this is the existing map that was given to us in terms of implementation of the Southeast Side programs. As you can see, very, very targeted on 93rd, 116th Street, 131st Street, Kinsman, and of course the Lee Harvard area. But what we want to do with this legislation is basically amend it to be more expansive. And so the next slide shows that we want to be able to cover more businesses in wards 1, 2, and 4. We need to be able to reach businesses that were not included in the initial effort because of the way it was so targeted that we weren't able to make these businesses fit within the program. So the legislation is asking that we are allowed to expand and be able to expand within the wards that we are already identified in.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then the other part of the request is that when we initially launched this program, ED was in transition. And so there was a decision made that we would partner with Cleveland Neighborhood Progress to implement the program. We are now asking to bring the program back into ED. Now that ED is fully staffed, we have the people in place to be able to implement this and to get the job done faster. We want to be able to get the money out the door more quickly, and we now have a team in place in ED that's able to do that.
Thanks, Reverend Owens. I believe this went through Councilman Bishop and Hairston.
Mr. President, I don't think that came through my committee, but
Okay,
I'm
no, I
fully
apologize.
supportive
This
of
is
the
your-
piece.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm fully supportive
area.
of this piece of South Sea Side. And kudos to you, Director, and Mr. Owens and Rosie, and you also for identifying this issue and correcting this issue so we can move forward and include other businesses in this Southeast Side initiative. Thank you.
I support it as well. I think it's a very powerful initiative, and I think this is really what's needed is how do we, make our corridors more vibrant. So thank you so much. Councilman Casey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the Director, what's the total amount of investment that's going into the Southeast Side Commercial Corridor Program?
To the Council, through the Chair, the Southeast Side Commercial Corridor program was allotted $5 million in ARPA dollars.
Okay.
Southeast Side Corridor Program has been allocated $5 million in ARPA dollars. This is part of the ARPA allocation that we made investments in probably 2 years ago.
All right. And then, Mr. Chairman, to the Director, why in this piece of legislation are we taking the authority away from the Board of Control and putting it all into the Director's hands, including picking which projects are going to be done and determining the contracts and I mean, it's taken an awful lot putting it into the hands of one person without the oversight of the Board of Controls, which could, I'm not accusing you, right? But we know which could lead to potential problems down the road with, I mean, that's how government got in trouble a long time ago when we had 3 county commissioners. And I'm not saying we're going there, right? And I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if you're not there, right? Somebody else, or it just leads to, without having the Board of Control there, it just could possibly lead to something that we don't want to see happen. And I just want to make sure that we're protected, not only on the council side, but on not only you as the director or whoever's going to be making those decisions, but that's going to be a lot of money that's going to be flowing through one person's decision on projects, right, and construction and everything else. So how are we protected that way with taking the Board of Control out, which is basically our springboard or our safety net, and giving it to the director?
Understood. Through the chair to Councilman Casey, I'm going to hand this over to Ms. Slansky, who has done a lot of work with our attorneys on kind of the technical side of this. But I will say, generally speaking, one of the many reasons that this is coming back in here is because I think when this program was created a couple of years ago, part of the reason of shipping it outside of here was the thought that it might be able to go quicker, right? And I think we've only spent about $20,000-ish to date. 200, right? So it has not been able to move as quickly as everyone had intended. These are also mostly very small dollar grants going out to these businesses. So again, there's been a lot of time kind of looking at the legal side of this. And Cassie, I don't know if there's anything that you want to add to that.
Through the chair, no, that covers most of it. So initially, when this legislation was passed in 2023, the intention was the $5 million was going to CMP, and at that time, it had to go to Board of Control in order for the city to enter into that $5 million grant agreement with CNP, which then they would enter into various small business grant agreements. So that money coming in back in-house would hurt with streamlining the process of getting the monies out the door. So any of these grants will be under $100,000. And historically, with all of our other programs, we don't take them through Board of Control. It would be under authorization of the director. We'd still have to go through the law department. But that Board of Control piece was on there from when this large amount was going to CMP.
And then, Mr. Chairman, to the director, if you're going to give, I don't know, $100,000 out, $150,000, $200,000. Do those will those be contracts? Will they be contracted with those businesses or whatever? And then would those contracts have to come back before council for expenditure over $50,000?
Through the chair to council, no. Due to Ordinance 90-10, all contracts $250,000 or under in the Department of Economic Development do not need to go through council.
What is it? What is that?
$250,000 or under is the magic number.
And when was that passed?
2010.
10? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck to you. I still think we should have some sort of checks and balances with the Board of Control or somebody or something, because I don't want to see somebody get jackpotted up in today's society. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, are there any other questions? Councilman Kevin Conwell.
This corridor, do you have an idea? Is it just going to be spread out, or are you going to have it connected to, say, for example, Shaker Heights is here, and then it's like taking a pebble and you throw it into the pond, and from that energy from Shaker Heights, it spreads out, and let's say up to Chagrin or Kinsman area. What do you plan to invest the money? You got a plan for it? Because, for example, where we're at, University Circle, we invest there, and we're moving up north. We're moving north from our strength, moving north, and it's easier for me to talk with developers. Through the chair.
To the council, through the chair, our initial investment was in Docks on Harvard, was the first investment that we made. The second investment is in a business called Watson Community Health, which is right up the street from Docks on Harvard. We're also doing a lot of investing in that Lee Harvard corridor, so building off the momentum created by that initial investment. And so then they're also having interest from businesses that are on Kinsman now to sort of build up that commercial corridor as well. So we are working from that sort of circle, if you will, the Lee Harvard sort of beginning,
and then building out from there in terms of building a consensus and building momentum that way. But we're also working very closely with our community development corporations. They are the ones that are actually doing the on-the-ground work with these local businesses. So in the case of Harvard, it's Harvard Community Services Center. In the case of Mount Pleasant and Union Miles, it is New Point Community Development Corporation. They are the ones actually sourcing these businesses and kind of working with them to get them ready to apply for this funding.
So, you know what? The way I look at, like with development, I'm not you guys, but I am a PMP. So, you know, I do understand certain things.
527.
The way I look at things, you got to do prevention too. So you have this $5 million, which is not enough money. Anyways, other projects have got more than $5 million. You develop from your strength, but you also, when you develop from your strength, you have to do prevention too. So like you develop and create, let's say a $2.5 million project, whatever the case may be, but down the street, one just went into default, or something fell apart, or something more than 2.5 million fell apart, 10 million start falling apart. So how do I do prevention when I'm building other projects? Because if you don't, it would go like something never happened.
Right.
It never went anywhere.
To the council through the chair, the initial investment in Docks on Harvard, as well as the second investment in Watson Community Health Center, is powerful because it's right across the street from the old JFK site. The old JFK High School site.
I see it.
Excuse me.
It's next to Warrensville.
Yes, but those investments are right across the street from the JFK High School redevelopment site. So what we're doing is we're actually developing the JFK site, which is 15 acres.
Right.
In addition to local businesses that are on Harvard right across the street. So the goal is not just to do one development and make it be siloed in a way so that it isn't supported. But what you have is momentum being built by making the initial investment on Harvard, then following it up with the JFK redevelopment site, which is going to be probably $60 to $70 million in investment there as well. But you're also creating momentum for other small business owners to take advantage of it as well. So we're not just developing in a vacuum, but we're thinking about this in terms of how do we impact these communities in a real profound way. So you do that by layering on development activities so that no development stands by itself and is isolated in a way that it can't be sustained.
You know what I would do too, to the chair. Have a fair there, something like that, so that people, when they get their homes painted, when you do some infrastructure, economic development, you bring in your state reps, state senators also, when the capital plan comes, so that you can get some more dollars and you have new roads there. I mean, you take the money that we're pushing it through here, and you take it and you use it to leverage other investments. And I would look at a prevention plan. Through the chair, if you guys did a master plan over there, or strategic plan with the CDCs, you mentioned the CDCs.
To the council through the chair, yes, the Harvard Community Services Center did a Lee Harvard master plan, which is which the work that we're doing is reflective of the priorities in that plan.
All right, that's important. That's important. And you met with the other key stakeholders in the plan, like Chris Ronayne and other county council members. You bring them in there, and you talk with them about. I'm almost finished. You talk with them about dollars, because I'm real concerned. I want that area to grow, just like they took care of the West Side Market and the West Side. I want that area to grow, also. And when you're a councilman, you're not only a council member for Glenville, but you swear in to be a council member for the entire city of Cleveland, and you want the West Side, East Side, or whatever the case may be. We're sitting here legislating laws for people to live, work, and travel to the city of Cleveland, and that means a lot to me. I mean, that's why I'm asking you. I'm being nosy and asking you the question, or even if I put my hand out, even if we have to go downstate to lobby to do things. We deserve those dollars and to do prevention.
To the council through the chair, I think I agree with you. I think the work that needs to be done is not going to get answered by just this $5 million investment.
No, it's not.
And so what we've been doing is leveraging these dollars to invite others to the table, which is the reason why the JFK development site is so important, because we're bringing money back to these neighborhoods and communities that it's going to result in redevelopment that's also going to be able to create momentum. Because one of the big points here is the commercial corridor program is meant to provide a visible impact. So signage, lighting, painting,
Got it. I was gonna mention that.
facades,
Right.
all of those things are part of this program. And what we're trying to do is make it easier to access for our local business owners.
And you know what? Some simple things can happen through the chair. And I've been trying to get the administration to do it in my ward also. You go there with the street sweeper, you clean, you keep trash and debris out of the way, so that way when businesses pass by, they say it's clean, and that's how you keep crime down also, by keeping it clean, and people want to invest in that with that $5 million. Because $5 million is not going to do it. It's not going to do it, and I'm just mentioning it. I mean, I really care about it, and when I ride the neighborhood, I look at it, because, I wouldn't mean to be, that's my background, just to look at those things. And it means a lot to me also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Owens. All right, Councilwoman Gray, and then Councilman Bishop will have the final remark after that.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say that I am so elated and proud to be part of the Southeast Side renovation that's going on the Southeast Side, and I am happy to be part of the product of the program that's going on the Southeast Side. We're finally getting some traction, Chair, to the team. We're finally getting some traction. Some things have been done. Some revitalization has been done to some of the businesses, I believe, in all 3 wards now. And we're seeing a lot of the business people are pretty much happy and to see some things moving forward. And I am happy that I have a new Southeast Side representative that's going to be boots on the ground. That's going to be boots on the ground, and we'll be comfortable with my edginess and my aggressiveness attitude, which compared with her delightful, charming, beautiful self, that we can work together as a team. So she gets me right off the bat, and I'm so appreciative our director Tom for making that decision, and she deciding to come and work with us on the Southeast Side. And I also am working with our strategy director, Marvin Owens. We've been doing some tremendous work together. We finally collaborated on some of our developers who want to come into Ward 4 and purchase some of the schools, the CMSD schools. We got a handle on that area, as well as understanding our business owners that's on the Kinsman, and we got to work a little bit better on Union. But however, I'm glad that we're finally moving ahead and getting and seeing the light at the beginning of 2025, and now I can see the difference, how everything is coming together, and we having a great understanding. So I'm just saying that I'm pleased now, since things are back on track. The money is now going to be available for the business owners to use it and do what needs to be done. And then now we can brighten up our community. And that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Kevin Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to make an amendment.
All right.
To Section 1 at the end of section 1, I would like to add, the Director of Economic Development shall provide written notice to the Clerk of Council whenever any contract is made under this section, which shall include the details of any such contract and/or agreements.
All right, do I have a second for that amendment?
Second.
Councilman KZ. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Therefore, the amendment carries. Thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 827-2025, as amended, will be heard by the full council body tonight for consideration. Next thing is ordinance number 832-2025 by council members Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Economic Development to apply for and accept a grant from the Cleveland Foundation for the Business Development Growth Grant. Director McNair.
All right, thank you, Council President, members of the committee. So try to keep this simple. Ultimately, you strip down my job, it comes down to two primary responsibilities. There's a lot of nuance into how we go about it and the why, but ultimately, our job here is to provide quality jobs for every Clevelander that endeavors to have one, and to grow the tax base of the city of Cleveland, right? Like, days like today are a constant reminder to me that we live in a city of infinite need and very limited resources. I have watched a lot of complicated conversations come up here for all the different problems that we have, and there frankly isn't enough money. And that is primarily because people have moved out to the tune of 1 million residents going down to 365,000. We have watched countless businesses go out the door, and this is an effort to change that. Right? I have done a lot of work. Our team has done a lot of work over the last year and a half or so. We have gone from 10 employees to 28. We have reoriented the direction of this department. We hired a great new employee, David Lucas, who's in charge of our Deputy Business of Growth. Guys, I am tired, and I mean tired, of finding out that companies have left the city of Cleveland that we haven't even had a conversation with in years, right? And so we are doing much more work in the business retention and expansion area on that side, but ultimately we have to get to attraction. That is why we work together with you to create the Site Readiness Fund, which now has over 200 acres under control, and sites are great, but we need real jobs here, which is why this grant enables us to hire a full-time attraction position within the city, right, that is focused on going out and finding companies to bring into the city of Cleveland. We've done a lot of work over the past year getting on the data and the business intelligence in our core industries that are showing us where to fish, so to speak. But we need the horsepower to do it, and grateful for the Cleveland Foundation being a partner in this. So this would be for salary and benefits for that position, as well as another project management position within the department, to help ensure that once we bring them in, that there is a smooth process for them to get through the finish line. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, sounds good to me. Anybody have any questions regarding 832-2025? Seeing no discussion, 832-2025 stands approved. Thank you, Director.
You got it. Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
we
it.
have 3 council pieces. So I'm going to ask those council members and our attorneys if they could join us at the table. First one is ordinance number 710-2025 by Councilmember Conwell, an emergency ordinance to supplement the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976 by amending sections 403.071 and 431.44 as amended by ordinance number 207-09 passed June 8, 2009, related to idle reduction. Attorney Scalish, and then if Conwell would want to make any comments.
Sure, thank you, Council President. Through the chair, this piece amends the idle reduction enforcement section to add the Director of Public Health, giving him or his designee the ability to enforce the idle reduction section of the codified ordinances and issue citations. Then the idle reduction part of the codified ordinances, 433.44, was amended to change the penalty around a little bit. Initially, it was a minor misdemeanor, and that was it. but we have changed it that it'll be a written warning first. You'll be fined $100 on the second offense, and then you will be guilty on the third offense of a minor misdemeanor. And then signage, we've encouraged and directed the Director of Public Health to put up signage for posting regarding vehicle idle time prohibitions.
Okay. Councilman Conwell, you're the sponsor of this legislation.
Yeah, we have to, in our neighborhoods, the environment is getting worse, and I can't quantify the worst right now. But in Glenville, it is the worst. And so when you have idling, when they go into the mama and papa stores, to my colleagues, you'll see Pepsi Cola, you'll see Frito-Lay, you'll see people idling all the time. In the Culture Gardens, they're idling all the time. Well, you know what? It affects our air quality. It affects our air quality. So what we need to do is have a red hot stove effect, saying that if you're going to affect people's air quality in the city of Cleveland, then what we're going to do is give you a warning and give you a citation. And if we have to amend it later on, take it up to another notch, we have to protect our air quality in the city of Cleveland. Now, some people don't know better, but how do you change their behavior? You change their behavior by putting signs around, little signs at the botanical gardens or at the Culture Gardens or the West Side, West Boulevard, whatever the case may be, or schools, because we idle all the time in the schools, we pick our children up. We have to change their behavior so that we can have clean air. All citizens deserve clean air, and that's all I'm saying right now on this legislation. And it would give us more enforcement and more people when you have the health director also. He met with Rachel Nagriskelis and I, the request that he is included in there so that his bodies will also be able to give warnings. So I'm asking my colleagues to think about this, and we move forward this ordinance. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, any questions regarding ordinance number 710-2025? Seeing no questions, ordinance number 710-2025 stands approved. Next is ordinance number 715-2025 by Councilmember Starr, House Jones, and Hairston, appropriating funds obtained from Cleveland casino revenues for use by Cleveland City Council for projects properly benefiting the public and adopting new protocols for the use of such funds. Director, or Attorney Scalish.
Yes, through the chair. As you said, this ordinance appropriates funds from the casino revenues, but the most important part about this piece of legislation is that it incorporates into the ordinance new protocols for the use of those funds. These protocols were heavily vetted about a week and a half ago in an hours-long meeting. So I don't think that we need to go over those again. But again, what this would do is appropriate the casino funds and then enact the new protocols for the use of those funds.
Okay. All right. Is there any questions regarding, I know there was a lengthy discussion last week where council members really got a lot out on the table. Any questions regarding 715-2025? Councilman Conwell. Councilman Conwell.
You know, I sit back and I even read with the plain dealer, Cleveland.com put down. There was missing, when this project team came out to narrate to council members about the gambling casino, there was a missing piece. And it kept coming up, Councilmember Starr. You brought it up, and Councilmember Mike Palencia also mentioned it. I sit back and I thought about it, and even one council member cast the blame toward Tony Tell. No, when they came out with their project team to narrate to us, they had the law department and they had a law firm. How can you sit back and discuss finance without having a finance committee at the table? So we're talking about gambling casino dollars, and we're talking about financing, and we're talking about the glitches at the table, and what's going on with the finance department, the reason why he couldn't answer the question is because the finance director was not at the table. And I just asked the finance director, I said, how come you were not at the table? He said, Councilman Conwell, I was not invited. I was not invited. You remember we were there? People got frustrated. You had to go to the dentist or some kind of medical piece. When you have a project and you trying to implement something, you must make sure that all key stakeholders are at the table. So I say to us, I'll vote for this, but we need to bring them back in, Council President, and we need to talk with the finance director, because if he's the one releasing the money, we need to make sure he knows the way, another way we need to have things done. Because by him not being at that table, and I sit back and reflect on it, it was not a good thing. Not a good thing. And people, being that Tony Tell released the funding for us, I mean, people got disappointed and upset with her. They misplaced the blame. The finance director should have been at the table because they're the ones who released the checks and they're the ones that cut it, and they should have been there with the law director. And that's just where my statement, and that's where I'm at. Thank you very much.
All right.
Say something, Chair.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Okay, I think I had the question there too at the table, that this ordinance, this is optional. This is something optional that it's up to the council if they want to release the funds ahead of time to the applicant or not. It's not something that is mandatory that we need to do if we want to release the funds ahead of time if we don't want to do it this way, correct? Attorney?
We need to clarify the question.
I'm not sure I understand the
Could you
question,
clarify the
Councilman.
question?
Okay, because this is the...
Put your microphone on, Councilman.
This is the casino funds that we spoke about. Now, this is something that was brought, saying that we can administrate the funds ahead of time, and we would not be accountable if it's not paid back, because it will be responsibility of the law department if they don't pay the funds back.
So
Is this
let me make
optional
sure
if
if
we
I
want to
can.
do this or not? If we
Let
don't
me
want
make
to-
sure that I understand this. What she's asking for is, I believe there's a portion of this, and I'm gonna make sure if I'm saying this right, that up to $10,000, we would be able to expend or give the money to the organizations up to $10,000. And what she is asking, if I understand correctly, and to clarify me, correct me if I'm wrong, Council Lady, but what she's asking is that one, optional, to have the option to do that or not, which means that she may want an organization to put up $10,000 and then reimburse. Or number two, if we did just allocate the money for $10,000, who would be responsible if the agency doesn't do what they're supposed to do? And would that be the council person responsible or the law department, or who would be accountable for that?
But through the chair, my understanding is that first.
Did I say that right? First, Councilwoman?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, please proceed.
You'd first go after the entity that didn't pay it back, right? If you couldn't get it from them, then the state would probably go after the city, the finance director, or the law department. If you're asking whether they would go after an individual council member, I heard that the law director say probably not. So.
So what is this probably? Probably is something up in the air.
So the opinion that they give is that they don't
We don't
believe
know.
so, but you can't predict if somebody's going to file a frivolous lawsuit. Somebody filed a lawsuit on me 2 days ago, and I don't even know what the hell they were filing. So it doesn't stop people from filing a lawsuit.
Yeah, they would
but
do
it
that.
does. But the legal people, they don't like to give definitives. What they say is, we don't believe they have good ground to stand on. So bottom line is, they're pretty much saying that, no, the council person, they don't believe there's not precedent to say that the responsibility will fall back on the council person.
Yeah, that sound like Rachel and O'Leary. They'll say that in a minute. We don't believe. Like,
Okay.
nah, tell me.
Well, that's why you gotta, a lot of these things you want to make sure we're on good, sound legal ground. But
right.
Councilwoman, anything else? Gentlemen, if y'all could just have a seat, I'll be with y'all in a second.
And just want to confirm that this is, even though this is an ordinance, it doesn't mean that per council has a decision if they want to administrate the funds up front. If not, we don't have to. We can just do it like we normally
Like we
used to
did
do.
it in the past.
Okay, I just want that to be confirmed.
Is that we have the option of doing it like we did in the past, that request them to spend the money and then get reimbursed. When she's saying that she
Protocol
don't-
is that all the expenses go out on a reimbursement basis.
Mhm.
There is a certain point in certain amount of money that perhaps if you want to, if you go through certain processes, you could, with invoices, you could give money up front.
Okay, I just want to be clear.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Council Lady. All right. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 715-2025 stands approved. I want to thank Councilman Starr and House Jones and Hairston for really rolling up their sleeves and digging into that. And thanks you, Attorney Scalish, and also McDonald Hopkins for working with us, okay? All right, next one is, last but not least, everybody, ordinance number 720-2025 by Council Members Starr and Hairston, an emergency ordinance to supplement the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976 by enacting new sections 164.01 to 164.04 and 173.19 relating to the creation of a Cleveland Commission on Black Males. Councilman, Attorney Heinert, Attorney O'Leary, and then Councilman Starr.
Thank you. Through the chair, as you said, this ordinance enacts new sections to create the Cleveland Commission on Black Males. It declares the public policy and purpose and establishes the composition and terms, organization and procedures, duties, and composition of this new commission. Generally, and you have a legislative summary in front of you that was put together by Ibukun and I, explaining the ordinance in greater detail. But generally, the commission will study the varied conditions affecting black men and boys in the city and advocate for policies and programs designed to address their specific needs. And it acts as an advisory board to the mayor, city council, and the departments to address these issues.
Thank you. Councilman Starr?
Thank you, my colleagues. This is something that I've been working on maybe about 2.5 years just for us to get this introduced. And one of the things that's very important is in order to make the house a whole, we have to definitely deal with the issues that are destroying the males that are not in the family or not in the household. So this ordinance number 720-2025 is the creation of the Cleveland Commission on Black Males. One of the biggest focus is for us to actually start to do some research and study on what is causing black males to leave the neighborhood or not in the community or not always in the household, or why are they doing different things that impact the neighborhoods in a negative way. When you look at this ordinance, you will see that black men were incarcerated at a rate of 1,862 per 100,000 compared to the total men incarcerated at 666 per 100,000 according to a 2022 analysis done by the Justice Statistic Data performed by Prison Policy Initiative. In order for us to be able to make our neighborhoods thrive the way that we intend to do, we have to focus on the male and the household as a whole, and I think it's time for us to do this as far as addressing these issues and challenges in our community. Major shout out to our policy and research team, Ms. Brooke and Ms. Imbakun, as well as Mr. Titrin for working with us. Shout out to Ms. O'Leary for always responding as well. I know we've been going back and forth all the good half a part of this year, just making sure we're all on the same page, carving out time while dealing with a budget to get this implemented as well. But also, one of the things I definitely want to make sure I have a good clarification on this. I know I might have answered it, but I want to make sure that when it comes down to the ordinance under section 164.02, and we talk about the establishment of the term of the commission, when we're talking about all of these different positions of these commissioners to serve on there, do the mayor have only 3 appointments, and then the rest of the appointments of commission is all about the council appointments? Through the chair to Ms. O'Leary, just to
Ms.
make sure I have it
O'Leary.
right.
Through the chair to the councilman, the appointments are split. So, the mayor or his designee is 1, then there's 3 members of council that are appointed by council or designees. The mayor appoints both the city employees, so that's 3 and 3.
Yes.
And then of the community representatives, basically, the mayor appoints, 4, and council appoints 5. It's a 15-member commission.
15
It's pretty evenly split between mayor and council appointments. I think the council gets 1 more than the mayor.
Can we, within the terms of that, if we can lower some of those appointments from the mayor and give more appointments to the council, I think that would be one thing I would like to make an amendment for this, meaning the mayor can have the Department of, the Community Relations Board appointee, the Department of Public Health appointee, or himself, and then I think it was one more other appointee. Those 3 appointments. But as far as the representative from a faith community, underneath the section under 164.02, where you're talking about appointments of 1 through 7, all of those appointments should be council-led initiatives for those actual 7 appointments, which would make us 7, and then the 3 that council get already, which is 10, and then the other 5 appointments can be the mayor.
Through the chair to the council, would the councilman like to proffer an amendment?
Yes, thank you, Council. Thank you, Ms. O'Leary. So to the chair, I would like to make an amendment to this ordinance 720-2024 under section 164.02 under section A as an apple, where there is the terms of how many appointments are made, striking the line where there allows the mayor to have, under part B, where it says the mayor should appoint members described in subsections 1 and 2. Council should appoint those described in subdivisions 3 through 5. Take that out and say 3 to 7. And then you strike the mayor and the council should each appoint, and that should just say council subdivision, and students described in subdivision 8 and 9.
May I ask a clarification question through the chair
Yes.
to the councilman? Do you want council to just appoint all of the 1 through 9
Yes.
appointees, basically all the community members?
Yes.
Okay. Then I guess you could just make your amendment to that effect, and the law department can figure out how to amend section B to make all of the appointments from appointments 1 through 9 council appointments.
Thank you. And so from that do I need to restate my amendment, Council President, for the record?
Restate it for clarity anyway, because I believe that the attorney would need it for clarity.
Yes, for clarification for the attorney for the amendment for section 720-2025 under section 164.02 under the point subdivisions of 1 through 9, strike that out to clarify that council will be the ones who point the subdivisions of 1 through 9. Council will be the ones who appoint those positions to the commission or designees.
Okay, attorney, do you have that? Yes. Okay, do we have a second for that amendment? Second. Councilman Casey has seconded the amendment. Is there any discussion on that amendment? Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment carries. Thank you. Please proceed with any comments on the legislation.
Other than that, I just look forward to getting this off the ground. I believe this is a great opportunity for us to dive deep and really start to study and actually provide recommendation for the mayor as well as the council on what it takes for us to be able to really make families whole again. As far as policy, research, grants, dollars, wherever we need to do, I believe this commission will be able to really come to hold to be able to help in the community as it relates to the Cleveland Commission on Black Males. And I think once again our staff, policy research team, our attorneys, Council President Ear, as well as Councilman Anthony Harrison and Conwell for working with me the last couple of years to all come up with these thoughts on how we can do this. Thank you.
Thank you. The one thing that I would say, Councilman, is that I encourage you to get with a department, either Community Relations Board or REC, because one good thing that the governor and the state legislature did is put $20 million away for fatherhood and programs. So, but we're going to need to have some people help with grant writing and all of those other things, and then we'll send Conwell down there to ask for all the money.
And from that point too, we are working some of the things we talked about within those appointments, having someone from community relations, the health committee as well, health department, to also sit on that commission so we can be able to work with them. So my sole focus is to possibly work with the health department. I did talk to Director Margolius about that, as well as CRB, to see if there's ways that we can work together on this. I definitely would do that.
Thank you. Councilman Conwell.
Am I down on the ordinance number 1? Young Star?
Through the chair to
No,
Councilman.
you're not on
You'd
it.
like to be
Councilman
added.
Conwell would like to be added to it.
You'd like to be
Yeah.
added.
Can I be added to it, Councilmember Star?
Can you be added to it?
See, you put me on there, man.
I would like to
think-
be added to it as well if I could.
I think that, matter of fact, I know. I'll reach out to Kimberly Dent, council member through the chair. $20 million was sent over for the fatherhood initiative, and I think we have to, well, I don't think, we need to go down there and talk with her, and then maybe even we'll reach out to the governor and talk with him, and so we can move forward with some funding for it. And you got Upchurch down there, so when we push towards some dollars, we can move towards for some TANF money.
Most definitely, and through the chair, I think that is a great point. Also, we've had some conversations offline with the Cuyahoga County as well, who wants to invest in this opportunity, but then also to making sure we get those dollars that's from downstate to be able to support this initiative. And if you read through the legislation, it's all about that studying, making sure we talk about the education, talk about the workforce, talk about everything that can make wholesome of an individual. Now, I'm a firm believer that our females have been stepping up in our black household, doing their job, doing their part, and completing everything. But if we don't develop and work with our young black males or young African Americans, it's going to continue to go from school to prison pipeline that we need to really challenge and fix.
Well, to the chair, to Councilmember Starr, you have expertise and work. He does. He have expertise in working on this. Some people don't want to say it, but he does. It's Casey toward him. He worked for the Boys and Girls Club. He was a director, and this is what I know about the Boys and Girls Club. To be a director there, you have to be a smart individual. Have a good outcome. That's the truth. I work with you guys. I know you have to be smart. So you know the way, Councilmember Starr. And so we just have to go down and see Kimberly Dent. I'll reach out to her tomorrow. I'll forward you her phone number, and then with Jobs and Family Services. And that's where the $20 million is lying at. Thank you, and thank you, CP.
All right, thank you. All right, seeing no other questions, ordinance number 720-2025 stands approved. That concludes all 40 pieces of legislation that we heard today. This Committee of Finance, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is adjourned, and I will implore all of us, we need to be back in council chambers by 6:10.